This episode's brought to you by the following patrons: Cody, Allie, Jeremy, Mr. Ragebomb, Alex, Shining Donut 911, Nathan, Jennifer with a PH, Bo Easy, Lauren, Wes, Dreskel, Libby, Aaron, Jonathan, Tia, Danielle, Amy, Dave, Scott, Kate, Isaac, and Karoon. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group and Discord servers where we hang out daily.
I had a maid service come over and give me an estimate today to come twice a month and to clean my house. And then they're going to change the sheets every time and stuff too.
You should change your sheets more than twice a month, but go on.
Not if you're just living alone in your bed.
Well,
I'm going to call that maid service and be like, I need you tomorrow. I had sex last night.
I wonder if you had your own dating show.
Okay, I'm back around.
Yeah, right?
You guys are hosting, right?
Yes, Paige and I are hosting, but I want to know what totem I would be putting out the flame on when someone got voted off.
Oh, it's a dumpster? Like a little...
It would be a small dumpster fire. We could just call the show the dumpster fire. Your dumpster is out. We just, instead of going and putting it out, we just close the lid on it. It just...
Your dumpster fire is no longer worth it. Thank you.
I love it. The show sells itself, guys.
Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. And this week, we watched...
Nope.
We decided to pick famous movies this month that just came out.
Well, it's new release month, yeah.
I've enjoyed it quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
So did you all see this in the theaters?
I saw this in IMAX because it was shot in IMAX opening weekend.
Have you seen it since then, Paige? Because that was a while ago.
I watched it today.
Nice! I'm so jealous.
Yeah, we got our hands on a screener copy, so I watched it today.
Fuck. I wanted to watch it again just because I saw it in the theater on Friday night, and I wanted to refresh myself for the episode today, but I didn't want to pay $20 to rent it, so
yeah,
I did not do that. But I do feel like I remember it pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
This is going to be... Okay, this is a little embarrassing. I
didn't watch the movie.
I streamed the movie.
Oh, did you? Okay, good.
I've never not watched the movie. I don't think I've ever done that. And if I did it is before Paige was a host. So I feel good about that.
Yeah. That's fair.
Just because I would relentlessly mock you for it.
I feel like no matter what we do, you will relentlessly mock us. Yeah. But I also sort of love that about us.
I think one time I should just set the bar low and be like, I watched this 2 years ago. And then just...
Yeah, you're like, I watched this opening night. This movie came out in 97. Yeah. Have you seen it since then? Absolutely not.
I was there.
Yeah, I was 12.
Like to formally apologize for not knowing the French word for beaver.
Oh, that was so great though. I can't believe the director of Prey responded to us, both you and I, on Twitter about our episode on it. And he actually listens to it. I was blown away that he listened to it. And then that he said it was a lot of fun and that we were hilarious. And I don't know if he said anything about you, Mikey, but you can go back and reference those tweets if you want.
Ooh, yeah, this one hurts deep.
Well, you also didn't comment on the thread.
But if I was him, I would just click to the middle of a podcast and then comment on that and be like, yes, at 57 minutes, you did say that. Thanks for listening.
They're like, he's got timestamps and everything.
Motherfucker's got receipts.
Receipts.
But he did correct it. So we should issue a correction. Paige's correction corner.
At the end of Prey, he doesn't... He says, I like dog, it tastes better than beaver. Not, I like the dog, I would like to let it go. So, very different.
Yeah, because he wants to eat the dog.
Well, you know what they say. Bitches and beaver go together.
But, oh, jeez.
Oh, who says that?
The French.
That's the French. But also, I would like to say that for not having taken French for 15 years... I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah,
that was the only thing I fucked up.
I think you crushed it, Paige. But I mean,
Thank you.
Honestly,
Thank you.
To get corrected from the director of the movie, that's sort of still high praise.
I was like, if anyone knows, it's that guy.
Yeah, and he did not put French subtitles in the film. So, you know what? He's a little nitpicky on this.
Oh, yeah, this is a little on Dan.
No, it's fine. I will accept that correction. And now I know the French word for beaver. So, education.
And honestly,
learning.
when we start doing live shows over there, that's going to become important for Mikey. So,
Yeah.
It's good that one of us know that word.
Yeah.
And we should learn the word for cougar. But let's talk about this movie specifically for Mikey.
Sure.
This is Nope so hot right now. We got to talk about this.
Oh, it's so hot. So what did you guys think about Nope?
Do me last because I have like a whole theory.
Heard that before.
What, do you last?
Yeah.
There's no way you've ever had multiple options of people to do.
Mikey, on a list of one, they are both the first and last.
The alpha and the omega, if you will.
I feel like we're going to have fun this stuff. Okay, I'll go first. I think I enjoyed this better than any other movie he's done.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Really?
cool.
Interesting.
And I think it's like he made a B movie, and I really liked it like that. And then I also liked, he does say a lot of interesting stuff about like trauma and like defining your identity on it. And then like, there's some interesting things to say about that. And I feel like he did some interesting stuff. I want to watch it again.
It's way better on a second watch.
I think the creature design was super interesting. I thought
so
the whole
cool.
concept of a flying saucer just being a creature that eats people is
Being
super
an animal.
interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was decently scary. I thought it was beautifully shot. I know it's a long movie, but I feel like the pacing was a little bit better than Us.
Yeah.
And I think I just liked it more as a coherent story overall than the Us and
Get Out, though.
Get Out's really good.
It doesn't top Get Out for me.
I think it does for me because I really like flying saucer movies, and that goes back to when I was like a kid.
I can see that though. This movie is more, there's more action in this than in Get Out. Like, I could definitely see Mikey liking this more. And also, it is a solid B movie plot. Like, space UFO creature feature. Hello, let's do this. Like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of gives them some leeway of like, why didn't they call the authorities? And they're like, oh, but we want to get famous off of this. And I was like, oh, this is a terrible plot, but I love it. Let's do this.
This is a terrible plot, but definitely people would do this or try to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't find
think
it
it says a lot about
unbelievable.
where we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will also say that the pacing gets better on a second viewing, where I found this kind of slow the first time, and then rewatching it, it flowed a lot better for me.
I didn't find it slow when I watched it, but there were scares in this that really scared me. Like the slow scares that were really just the kids in the barn, that scared the shit out of me. Like the antlers with like the shit draping off of it, and then them slowly just walking towards the camera until he punches one of the kids in the face. Like, I was so freaked out.
It's the scariest part of the movie.
It is. It is the scariest part of the movie. But I thought the metaphor was cool. Loved it. I'm sure Paige will talk about it. I know you have a whole theory on it. To me, it felt like how Hollywood will literally chew you up and spit you out and move on to the next person. And if you don't like pay attention to it, it has no power over you. And that is, I think, just like one of the layers in here, which I really get into. Like, I think that's cool as shit. But Mikey, also like defining yourself by your trauma, there's definitely some of that in here. So like, I really like how Jordan Peele like layers in metaphors in his movies, but I really love, I think this is the first UFO movie I've seen where the UFO wasn't
There's not little people in it flying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because normally in a UFO movie, there's like aliens, and aliens is the scary thing.
Yeah, it's like what's inside it.
Yeah.
Yes.
A UFO eating you is a terrifying concept.
Right? Because normally in UFO movies or alien movies, we should call them, you're worried about going into the UFO, like being taken there, right?
Or them coming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
War of the
absolutely.
Worlds has some eating people stuff in it, but it's more science fiction-y than horror.
Yeah. Is War of the Worlds horror?
Well, the Spielberg one, oh man, I would love to do
Spielberg
that
one is fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
That scared the shit out of me.
Yeah,
in
we
theaters.
should do that.
It's sci-fi action.
But Mikey, you're right. I feel like of all the three movies that he has like written, directed, Us is his weakest, but still a good movie. And then for me, I honestly haven't seen Get Out recently enough to be able to like educatedly put it in a place, but gut reaction after seeing Nope 2 days ago, I'd put it first because I think it is more actiony, more like B movie plot, which is more fun. I think Get Out is probably the better movie, but it's not as fun as this one was.
Get Out's a better film.
Yep.
This was more fun to watch for me because it's like more epic and the body counts are high and there's people screaming and scary stuff, spaceships. I love all that stuff.
The UFO creature gets exploded by a big boy balloon, and that is
Love it.
dope as shit. I watched this in a packed theater, and there was a bunch of kids behind us, like a lot of like high school kids, to the point where you're like, oh, they're never gonna shut up during the movie. Like they were so loud beforehand, it was terrible. And then when the movie came on, not a peep from them. Like they were super quiet.
That's probably because they had a Mikey in their friend group. Because in high school, I'd be like, if you talk during the movie, I will beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe that's what it was. But when it blew up, one of them went, hell yeah! like loud. And everyone just started laughing. It was very, very funny. But I mean, the movie itself, like, it's not portrayed as funny. You're like, oh, thank God it's dead. But like, I was here for that death.
I love the main actor from Get Out in this or whatever.
Daniel Kaluuya.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
I think he does a fantastic job in this film of like taming the beast or whatever. Like his whole like taking those skills that his dad taught him and use it in this situation is like so interesting.
Well, that's the whole point of the movie.
Oh, I know, but I mean, like, I really like that. I like that the characters have such rich backstories that no one feels two-dimensional, if that makes sense. Which I think is missing in a lot of horror movies. That is not hard to write into a script. I mean, I guess it's more challenging because a lot of people don't do it. But like every character in this film had like nuanced backstory, and I love that.
Yeah, even Stephen Wan, who I feel like doesn't have a big part in this movie. I feel like I understand why he's doing what he's doing, his motivation. Like, he is not just like a on again, off again, like character that just pops into scenes and doesn't have a unique voice or anything. Like, he's not in this movie as much as like the main characters, but I feel like I understand his motivation and why he's doing things. Also, man, those ape scenes, those fucking terrified me. Like, not even just like the ape losing his mind every time the balloon pops, but like the tension as it's walking towards Stephen Yeun's character, like when he's a younger guy, right? When he's like the child actor, man, I was like squirming in my chair and covering my face, and it was terrifying. Like, this movie, even though I would say is a good movie, it is scary, man. Like, this movie messed with me. But Paige, what did you think about it? What's your theory on it?
Okay, so I find it really interesting that neither of you talked about the main theme and thesis of this film. And one that Jordan Peele has like admitted to wildly.
I haven't read any articles. I try to come in fresh.
I read some, but I didn't want to like step on your toes. You know what I'm saying?
The theme of this film is man versus nature, specifically. Like, that is the thesis statement of this film of you cannot tame a predator. Man cannot control what is wild, which brings me to my theory. Because if you know anything about writing in general, you might be familiar with the 5 different types of conflict: man versus self, man versus man versus nature, man versus society, and man versus the supernatural.
Yes, I live a life of man versus himself.
We know, Mikey. We watch it every day.
If you look at Peele's filmography, you can identify at least 2 others. So, man versus self, us. You're literally fighting the same person as you, your clone. Man versus society, racism in Get Out. Man versus nature, Nope. Which means, what is either man versus self or man versus man? Because us could be either one. And what is man versus the supernatural? What are his next 2? Like, when I walked out of the theater realizing that this was purely a man versus nature movie and thought back through the other 2, I was like, what are his next 2? Like, what is he doing for the next 2? Like, what's the supernatural one? What's the other one? Or do you classify Get Out as supernatural? Like, how does he classify them? So that was my main thing after seeing this one.
I think you're more right about it being man versus society. Get Out specifically.
That was my opinion. When I was trying to think of where to place
too. I think he blends a lot of those elements because like Us was like...
Us is about classism.
Yes, it is.
So now part of the reason I put Us as man versus self is because of the central conflict of Us where she switches places. And it's the conflict of, did I do the right thing by sacrificing someone else's life for my own? Man versus self.
Yeah.
And also they are your counterpart. I think Get Out is the one that's a little more nebulous, where it could be man versus society. It could also just be man versus man. Like, that's kind of interesting to me too. But I think for me, what I liked the most about this movie is the different ways that it portrays the consequences for a lack of respect and a lack of relationship with the wild, which is like, that's the whole thing with the horse. No one respects the horse. No one's respecting the horse's boundaries, so it kicks somebody. That's the chimp. No one respected the fact that this is a wild animal that doesn't understand, and it ends up killing people. Stephen Yeun's character is trying to tame that predator. It's trying to get it to show up, but he's not respecting it. He's not trying to understand it. And it is literally only OJ that respects and has reverence for the wild nature of the animal that is able to exist in a contract with it. And that is the most fascinating part of the story.
Counter to that, though, is that all of these people are not just not respecting it, they're exploiting it for content.
Yeah.
OJ included. I mean, like, it's like really saying of like how troubling it is. Like, if something happens, you have to record it. You'll go back and put yourself in danger again to get the shot. I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff.
There is, which when the TMZ guy crashes and he says, "Get my camera."
Fuck, I love the TMZ guy so much, Paige, because like the TMZ guy would say that.
Do you want to know who did his voice?
Oh, who did it?
I'll burn a fun fact. Nicolas Cage.
No.
Oh,
shit.
no.
Are you serious?
He's just the voice. I don't think he's the actual like actor. But yeah, there's definitely an element of the voyeurism inherent in that relationship and the power dynamic of trying to get one or another to perform. And we see kind of the flip side of it in the early scenes in Hollywood where they're trying to basically get a wild animal to perform and by extension get OJ to perform without actually trying to understand or doing anything to participate in that relationship versus OJ, who actually learns and accepts and works with the creature. Are they still getting it for a photograph? Yeah, of course. But the nature of that relationship is changed by the investment in that relationship.
Oh, I think you're right. I love the end when he like looks up to like taunt the predator, where he's got that confidence he's kind of been missing the rest of the film.
I don't think he's taunting him.
Me either. I think he's drawing him closer. Like
it is, we are now in accord.
Yeah, I think he like breaks the thing. I mean, like the thing respects OJ and will not eat him but he's able to look at it and everything.
Yeah.
I do think it's wild that like everyone who comes across this sky shark, for lack of a better term,
Sky shark.
everyone is like, ooh, how can I make money off of this beast that is eating towns full of people? Maybe not towns, but like it eats 40 people at once.
Yeah.
On a practical level.
Yeah.
You have to call for this thing could have killed thousands of people.
Well, I feel like then I started questioning what happens if you call the authorities, and then I'm like, Independence Day. Like that we have that movie.
Okay, so I read an article where a lot of people think OJ died at the end.
Why?
Oh, because people like to overanalyze everything, and that him looking at his sister and the smoke was actually him being dead from the creature. I don't believe that, and I had to I
don't think that either.
I don't believe that either because that's not what's shown on screen.
I know. I just wanted to talk about it.
That's so weird.
I read the movie as because he respected the creature enough to gain that creature's trust, he's able to lead it over where she can get a picture of it.
Or get it on video.
I think he led it away from her for her to get away, and then she kind of was like, I'm going to take the picture.
Yeah. For me, I put this in like ranking. Get Out is still my favorite. I fucking love Get Out.
Get Out's a better film.
Yeah, and then I honestly kind of have this tied with Us. Us is a very different movie.
It is.
And it does not work story-wise. It is one of those movies where I was talking to a lot of people about it recently because this came out, and they were like, is it good? And I was like, yes, but you have to not try to analyze the story logically. It is a movie about a theme and a point and a metaphor, essentially. And if you think of it a little too long, it does fall apart. But if you're watching it and just being like, this is more of a morality play about classism, then it's really interesting. And for me, Us is scarier. But I think that's because Us plays to very specific fears that I have about desperate people in desperate situations who make desperate choices. That, I think, is why it's scarier to me. For this one, the aliens in the stable weren't very scary to me because in my mind, I'm like, it's too early to see the real aliens, like within screenwriting in the movie. And so I'm like, these can't be real. This is a red herring. The thing that scares me is the scene where it's raining blood on the house. That is fucking terrifying.
Paige, agree. Hardcore agree.
Technically, the alien was taking a shit on their house.
Or vomiting blood all over their house.
It was just getting rid of the waste because also like everything that was in their pockets is falling out. I mean, that's what kills the dad. Like a quarter goes into his brain because he's like just dropping like the objects that he sucked up but couldn't eat, right?
Todd, yeah. It caught salmonella.
No.
Salmonella, Mikey.
Salmonella.
Like salmon.
Salmonella. Like it's a man that got
It could just be salmonella. I don't know why you need the extra syllable in there.
Because I don't like fish.
Actually, Paige and I are the only ones that don't eat seafood.
Yeah, we don't eat seafood.
And you can't even say salmon?
I don't want people to think I'm talking about salmon.
All right, we'll just move on.
Anyway, for me, another really terrifying scene was because until it eats everyone at the little arena, you don't know that it's an animal. You think it's a saucer.
Yeah, you think they're aliens or whatever.
Right, until you see that it sucked all those people up and it's digesting them.
Yeah.
That was horrifying.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
you're just like, oh my God, it's a giant creature and it is eating them. And you're just hearing them scream and it's horrifying.
And the way they sort of telegraphed the screams of the people being inside what is more or less the
so
stomach.
good.
Because every time it flies around, even before you see it, you're like, man, that wind whistling sounds just like people screaming far away. And then you realize later in the movie, oh shit, that was people screaming from far away.
Yeah.
Like it was just such a nice little touch in the sound design that made it even more creepy.
Yeah.
100% honest take. That's a horrifying way to die. Super scary. It was slow. People are screaming. Joke about this. It looked like if you had a latex fetish, that was how you wanted to go.
It looked to me like Discovery Zone a little bit, where it's like you're like sliding through the side of a bounce house or something like that.
Get in the zone! The stomach zone!
Yep.
That was their theme song, right? Discovery Zone?
No, I think that's the AutoZone.
That is the
theme song.
AutoZone theme song.
It still worked. Fuck it. I'm keeping it in. Let's jump into it and talk about it scene by scene.
Yes. So the opening of this movie actually telegraphs more of what's happening before the movie even starts. It's one of the only times I've seen this happen in a movie. So during the opening of the monkey paw, like little, I guess, credit sequence or like
Production company logo.
It's the production company logo. Yeah.
you're hearing the theme song for Gordy.
Yes.
Which, like, the first time you see it, you don't know that that's what it is. Although Jordan Peele did post a fake, like, theme song credit sequence that they made for the Gordy show on Twitter that you can go watch, and it is this song. But on a second viewing, you recognize that that's what it is. Then the film opens with a quote from Nahum 3:6, which is, "I will cast abominable filth at you to make you vile and make you a spectacle." And before we get into the rest of the movie, we have to talk about this quote and why it is here, because I did some deep diving to find out why it is here. So Jordan Peele wrote this during pandemic.
Okay.
And he was convinced at the time that movie making as an industry and theatrical releases as an industry were going to potentially be in trouble. And maybe movies weren't going to come back the way that they had been. And so in his mind, the only way to make sure that people would go to a movie would be to create a spectacle. And so the notion of the cost of creating a spectacle, both personal, emotional, and financial, looms large over this movie. First and foremost, he wrote the script with essentially no constraints of budget in mind, which is very difficult to do. A lot of times when you're writing a script, especially if you don't know who's going to make it, as you're writing things, you tend to think of like, well, how would people even do that? Like, how would somebody make that happen? How would somebody make this visual happen? And that can limit you a little bit. So he wrote specifically without thinking about that. Then once this went into production, he specifically asked to film it on IMAX. And there's a couple other things that they did that are pretty unique that most other films have never done. This is the first horror movie to be filmed entirely in IMAX.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
And he did that because he's like, it should be a spectacle, like specifically a spectacle. He also weaves that through Stephen Wen's storyline, where the horrifying thing that happens with Gordy, that we'll talk about in just a second, is kind of a dark spectacle in and of itself, in the way that Hollywood loves to look at a train wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example...
Like Don't Worry, Darling?
Yeah, I was like, for example, our group text thread,
Oh
which
my
has been
God.
all Don't Worry, Darling for like 2 days.
We have been losing our minds about it. Yeah. I literally, Paige, just sent a funny
He sent a
video
meme about
that is about Chris Pine getting spit on, quote unquote.
Yes.
I mean, we absolutely have been doing that the last 3 days. That's all we've been talking about.
Yes. And so there is that notion of like Hollywood loves it. Hollywood loves
Yeah.
a train wreck. That is their spectacle. It is filthy. It is vile. It is spectacle. But then for him to then turn around and try to create another spectacle with another wild animal that he cannot trust. Essentially, he has not learned his lesson. And there is actually a line in that scene, and I'll call it out when we get to it, that is actually timed very specifically for the movie. So we'll talk about it later. But just know going into this that Jordan Peele was very invested in the idea of this movie being a spectacle and examining the notion of spectacles.
Thought on that, Paige. I did not even think about him not learning his lesson with the practical things he's doing by setting up that thing. I came out of it just from like emotional trauma standpoint.
Yeah.
Of him, like, I'm like, oh, he has never dealt with this and moved forward with this.
I mean, I think you could read it that way too. I was kind of surprised that you did, because I did not. I read it as him not learning his lesson, but that's very interesting.
Same kind of thing. I mean, it's kind of the same sides of the same coin. It's two sides of the same coin there, which is like, you know, emotionally, he's like got the artifacts. He's like charging people to see it. He's like exploiting that trauma. Let me figure out how to say that. He's using this traumatic thing that happened to him to further his career, to make money. And then when he actually gets asked about it, and you wouldn't know this except for Jordan Peele's work on this, because you see his internal thought process while he's answering with this like chatty BSy SNL sketch. Inside of his mind, he's
terrified,
like flashing back, horrified, flashing back.
Yeah, you can see that on his face.
Yes, and so I was like, oh man, from like a trauma perspective, he's not really moved, like process it really. And then for him to go and make the same mistake again, what Paige is saying makes perfect sense.
Yeah, he literally is just living in his trauma, and he let that trauma define him. And that's the way he shows up to people in the world, because that's what defined him. Like internally, that's what defines him.
It's even more than just the trauma, because you have to think about it. Who is he? Why is he doing what he's doing? How did he end up here? Because he was a child star, right?
Yeah.
It is incumbent upon him to continue to foster and relive those traumas to maintain his career. This is a career necessity, or else he fades into obscurity. So it is equal parts him not letting go of that trauma because it's identity, but also having to monetize a traumatic part of his life because that's what he's known for. And that's how he makes money. And for every child star that's been like, that is a Hollywood special, if you want to think about it that way.
100%. And I think, to me, I mean, I guess from my perspective, that's such a great point of like not being able to talk about it in an honest way, or like you could even write that tell-all book that really is like, this fucked me up, and still have a career about it. But he can't even have those conversations, which he may have had it with like people closer to him or whatever. But I feel like the film implied of like, he pretends it's something that happened. I'm okay.
Right.
You know, I talk about it like, oh, that was crazy that what happened. Here's the shoe that I found. Or like, you know, it was straight up when I was there, not the horror that he actually lives every day about that.
So that scene is next because we see the Gordy set with the shoe standing upright, bloody, and the bloody chimp.
I didn't notice it until way down the film.
Okay, let's talk about it though, because the upright shoe has been debated consistently in this movie. What does it mean? It's clearly not done on accident, so it must have meaning. I read a couple different versions of what people think it is. The version I ascribe to, in part because it's kind of hinted at later in the movie, is the idea that the shoe is a bad miracle. Where, remember when he kind of talks about like, have you ever seen a bad miracle? And he's like seen the saucer, essentially. I think the shoe is kind of that, where it's like, this is a weird, strange thing, but it's also terrible and terrifying. And I am mystified, but also horrified. And I think that the shoe is, in a much smaller sense, a bad miracle. But also, as we see the end of the scene, the chimp, completely bloodied, stares directly into the camera and looks us in the eyes.
Yeah.
As if to say, we are the enemy of nature. Like, specifically. On a rewatch, I was like, yikes, that's obvious. Like, you don't necessarily see it the first time because you like, you know, it goes by so fast and you don't really know what the rest of the movie is yet. But it is blatant and indicting because it stares directly at you and holds.
Yeah.
It's wild. Great movie.
Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
it's really well done. I agree.
We cut to the house in Agua Dulce, and a light comes on upstairs. It's still dark. It's early morning, clearly. And we watch as OJ loads up hay, and he's feeding the horses and turning on the sprinkler on the training track. He's turning on the horse carousel. And we watch as his dad, Keith David, amazing.
Oh, my favorite.
Or OS, because he's the senior and OJ's the junior.
Yeah.
So his dad is training a horse, and it is Ghost. It is the horse that we'll see later in the movie. And he is basically saying, well, if we land this deal, they're definitely going to bring us on for the sequel, and we won't have to sell any more horses. It'll fix our money problems.
Yeah.
So this is how we know that the money problems exist prior to their dad's death.
Yeah, it predates OJ, right? Like, it's not OJ's fault
Right.
they're in the financial trouble they're in the rest of this movie.
So he asks, where's your sister? She's not here. Now, I do think, and this is something that I really kind of focused on a lot more the first time I saw it and a little bit less the second time. Keke Palmer's character, Emerald, the sister, has a very interesting relationship to both the family business, but also her father and brother. There's a scene in the house when the house is raining blood where she looks at a photo on the wall that we would have to assume is their mother, who has probably passed on.
Yeah.
And we get this sense from her conversations with OJ that OJ and his father were a lot alike. And that's why they kind of got along and trained horses together. They had kind of a similar personality. And I would assume that she is a lot more like her mother and is not necessarily the more reserved personality that they have from dealing with the horses. And so she has kind of a disconnection from the business in a way. She kind of tries to make her own way. And also they kind of clearly leave her out, which she clearly was upset about.
They clearly leave her out of what?
They don't let her help train the horses.
She was like 9.
Like he worked with OJ, he didn't work with her.
Yeah, and to Mikey's point, she was really young. Like, I don't know at what age you can start doing that and be safe. I'm not an equestrian, so I don't know those answers.
Itty bitty.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Definitely not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know.
Mhm.
I got the impression that, like, maybe the mom, who we never meet, so I don't know this, but was like
Right.
more of the, I don't want to say salesman, like showman. And
Gregarious.
yes, and that sort of went down to Keke Palmer's character, which is why when they're
Yes.
at the shoot later on, like, man, OJ really struggles to like do the presentation or to start it. And then she, even though she's late and like doesn't do great in that scene as far as like for the business, she is way better at presenting than he is, right? So I wonder if like the mom handled that aspect of it and Keke was like more in line with that, and OJ is more like the dad, who is the training side of it, like the actual nuts and bolts of like getting the horses to do what they need to do. But the mom was like the salesman side of it.
I had another perspective just because of the way people talked about the dad, of being like he had it all together and he ran the business and all the things. I thought that the siblings were like him broken out in two, of like he was a good salesman and a good trainer, and he was able to go on set, run everything, explain everything, be outgoing, do all of that stuff, where OJ has all the training stuff, all the knowledge, and then she got all of the people skills.
I have yet a third in interpretation, although I think both of those are valid.
Yeah.
I think, and this is after a second viewing, I started to think about this. I think there's some indication that OJ might not be neurotypical, just based on the interactions he has.
I don't know. I feel like that's a normal older brother reaction. If that's the only other person you have to talk to for most of the film, is like, man, that horse is really nice, but man, my younger sibling is terrible and never helps around the house, and it's my responsibility to run everything because they're never here.
I was thinking more along the lines of the way that he deals with the people on set, where he doesn't feel like he can really assert himself. He feels very connected to the animals, but a little more soft-spoken and maybe not as invested and direct. But then also, once we get into this, he's noticing things that a lot of other people aren't, because he seems to look at things a little bit differently, and they kind of need him for that.
I didn't have that read. I just felt like he had a very big confidence shy issue.
Yeah, you could definitely argue it could be shy. It could be a lack of confidence that he can run the business the way his father could. That could be. However, I do think that he wants to. Like in the conversations he has with his sister, he's kind of like, I'm not going to let this go. I have to do it. I will do it. So for me, on a second viewing, I was like, I don't know that it's confidence. I think it's personality, or just the way he communicates with people is reserved.
To me, it doesn't matter necessarily, because I feel like everything, especially with that kind of stuff, is on a spectrum.
That's why I said may not be neurotypical, as opposed to giving it a specific. I'm just glad to see somebody who thinks like me, even if you don't specifically call it out. Because I feel like if you specifically call it out, then the movie just becomes about that, as opposed to he's just a character in this movie that happens to be this way.
I think that anytime someone would be watching something that they see aspects of themselves in, they would feel more representative, whether those aspects of themselves put them somewhere on that spectrum or not. So like if the way their atypicalness shows up in their life or manifests in their life is through being shy and not maybe outspoken when they could be or should be maybe socially, because they have social issues or whatever, like that would make them feel seen and represented, whether that character really is on the spectrum somewhere or not. I mean, and it's the spectrum, so they definitely are on it somewhere.
Anyway, so they're asking about where Keke Palmer, Emerald, is. She's not there. And as OJ kind of walks back towards the house, his dad is sitting on Ghost and just kind of looking up at the sky. And as OJ walks away, his phone stops working, the breeze stops, there's no more air or anything, and things just start falling and raining down around them. And he turns and looks, and we do see him look up at the sky, so the implication is that he sees it.
Yeah.
But we also see that his dad is hit, and so is the horse. The horse starts walking away, and his father collapses off the horse.
Ugh.
He runs towards him. Like, we smash cut to them in the car trying to drive to the hospital, which is brutal. Like, that is a brutal scene.
It is so sad, man, because his dad is dying next to him. Like, dies. I mean, his dad dies next to him.
And clearly suffering from a brain injury, because which we will find out later, but like...
He's got a quarter in that brain.
He can't form words. He's bleeding everywhere. Yeah. We cut to the hospital where his father's clearly dead.
They even show the x-ray of the quarter in his brain and all that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. We cut back to the horse who has a key embedded in its flank.
It wasn't a penny for your thoughts. It was a quarter for everything.
Well, yeah, because of inflation, Mikey, it's gone up from a penny to now a quarter for your thoughts.
But the Keith David's famous, so like...
Yeah, maybe his thoughts are worth more. That's fair too. Yeah, it could be that. You're right. You but I think the Sky Shark just misunderstood the metaphors.
Yeah, so we cut to the credits, which, by the way... I didn't realize this on a first viewing because, again, you haven't seen it yet. But on a second viewing, the credits are across the backdrop of the alien's stomach.
Oh, wild. Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice that either.
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah. And they finish with the image of that jockey riding a horse.
Yeah.
So we cut to a movie set in modern day. And OJ is trying to keep the horse calm while waiting for Emerald to show up. And we know that this is after his father's passed away because he's alone on set.
Yeah, I would assume it's like months later. Not like years, but like a few months down the line.
Couple weeks is what I was thinking.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
In my mind, this was probably the thing they were preparing for.
Yeah, it could be. Then it would be a couple weeks probably.
Yeah. Anyway, so OJ is on set, first time back after his dad has passed, and it's clearly too soon.
Yeah.
Since when his dad passed.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone on set is not being very respectful of what the horse needs to be able to perform.
Oh, that's absolutely true. But some of them are just straight up not being respectful that OJ's dad died recently. I mean, some of them don't know. I remember like the guy comes up and was like, hey, who are you? And he's like, hey, we're from this company. And then he very loudly turns to someone and is like, hey, where's the other guy? Oh, he's dead.
And they're like, he died.
Yeah.
A bunch of shit fell out of a plane, which is how we get the story that they were told, air quotes told, or maybe told the medical professionals that a bunch of stuff fell out of a plane and that's how he got injured.
Well, they had like a key like go into stone or something, which...
It goes into the horse's flank.
Yeah.
Another one went into the house, I think, which I think... Is that possible to drop something and that do it like that?
Yes. So it's actually the second time when it bleeds over the house, they end up in the steps of the house.
Yeah.
And it's like coins and keys. I mean, I think dropping something from that height.
But he's shitting it out with full force.
Yeah.
Like diarrhea.
Like, you know, when you get like really sick and you're just blasting diarrhea against the backside of the bowl.
Todd,
yeah.
Yeah, the black splash. Todd.
Yeah.
Get that?
I mean, yeah.
I feel like Todd doesn't eat enough food to propel enough poop.
Have you ever shit so much that you embedded shit in the toilet because you're just going so fast out of your ass?
Wait, what? I don't think I've ever run into this scenario. Like, what, is this like a real thing in your life?
I mean, sometimes, but only when I shit keys and coins.
Yeah, when I shit keys and coins.
You guys gotta stop eating that cake that like the people bake coins into for good luck. Stop just swallowing those.
My grandma used to do it in mashed potatoes.
The problem is I'm a huge fan of pork, but...
How is that even related to cake with coins?
I've been eating piggy banks.
Did not see that coming.
See, my problem is I have inner worth, and it's because I swallow a bunch of nickels.
You guys do weird things as like party tricks. Like that's a weird thing to do. Hey, who wants to see me swallow a bunch of nickels? I've never said that.
Somebody who wants me to shit dollar.
Now that would be a magic trick that would impress me.
You just swallow 4 quarters and shit out $1.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like that machine at the laundromat, but the opposite.
Okay, technically that'd be really easy to do because you eat $1 like 6 hours before the party,
First,
and then you
right.
eat, yeah.
Yeah, but then you're having to touch a shit-covered dollar. Like, why are we even discussing this?
Newsflash, they're all shit covered, Todd. At least this is yours.
That's true. One
All right.
time as a kid, my friend's dog Duncan ate like a $10 bill and then shit it out whole. And her mom washed it off.
Todd, can you bleep that name out for the podcast? We don't want to.
The dog's name is Duncan? No, whatever. Duncan is no longer with us. It's fine.
We got to protect the identity of the innocent.
But her mom washed the $10 bill out and then dried it out and then took them all to breakfast at McDonald's because it was like a surprise $10. Also, this was in the late 90s, so you could still get breakfast at McDonald's for a family for $10.
So I have a question that's related to what we're talking about right now.
Uh-huh.
What amount of bill would have to be in the poop for you to dive into the poop to get out?
Oh, I wish I could say more than 100, but 100 would do it for me, I think.
100 would definitely do it for me.
Yeah.
To be honest, it depends on what kind of poo are we talking about. Is this like a solid poo that I'm going to be able to easily extricate this dollar from?
No, I was thinking like just regular dog shit.
Okay, so
Can you let it dry first?
yeah, that was my thinking.
You can take any approach you want, Mikey. It's a hypothetical.
I will take any amount. I'll just let the poo dry.
Yeah,
Then you just crack it with a hammer and get it out.
exactly.
Like a Fabergé egg.
That, honestly, is a genius idea. For me, it would be either a $10 bill
Yeah.
or higher
Right.
or a $2 bill.
$2
They're
and
still only
you-
worth $2.
I know, but I honestly wouldn't spend it. I'd keep it. I like $2 bills.
2 from a number 2.
Hell yeah. Take that number 2 from the number 2, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the real poop dollar right there. Like, I don't
Hell
know
yeah.
how familiar you are with the Workaholics catalog of pranks, but poop dollar, it's up there.
I just like that it's Jefferson on it. And that to me is funny that it's in poop. Anyway.
He was pretty shitty. But technically, all the founding fathers were. Why do we care what they think?
Yes. They're not as good as today's class of landowners.
Oh, don't love the way you just said that.
I do think it was funny that in the Facebook group, people were asking for your input as a landowner.
That was very funny. But you announced that you're a landowner, like you went to like establishedtitles.com and bought like a square foot of Scotland so you could be called a landowner.
I did. You can take note of this. It was called zillow.com.
Yeah, that's where he got his square foot of land. I went to Established Titles and bought land for my dad in Scotland that they then never sent us the certificate for. And then I went through a 6-month process of just trying to get the damn certificate for that land. And eventually they're like, we're just going to refund you. You still own the land. And so I have like, we own it and have like an email saying it, but no other proof.
Well, good luck with all of that.
Real estate fraud is a very real danger.
In Scotland, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to like plot up my backyard into like 1 foot squares and then sell that.
I would buy all of it and then live back there to annoy the shit
Oh
out
my
of
God, guys, ultimate Patreon tier.
you. Live it by
To own a
Todd's backyard.
square foot of your house. This square foot is in the middle of Mikey's bed, lady.
I ain't giving my foots to the proletariat.
You mean proletariat?
Man,
Whatever.
Mikey, every day is just a new thing that scares me about your life and how you pronounce things. Like, you have a master's degree.
Not in that.
No, he's got a landowner's degree, okay?
But yeah, I think we should add that to the fuck you money level of Patreon.
Yeah,
So you get
okay.
a square foot.
No one has
Your
signed up
Mikey's
for it yet.
houses?
Just my backyard.
Prolariat, he's the one that won all those races in Kentucky.
It's
that horse.
proletariat, not pro whatever you were saying. I am so worried, like how you did in school.
I don't know, but I will tell you that a couple days ago, my husband tried to text me something about Sebastian Stan, and it auto-corrected it to Seabiscuit Stan, and I've been laughing about it ever since.
I do sort of
pretty
love that.
good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're all kind of milling around the horse. They're not being respectful of its personal space. And then one of them has a reflector. So the horse sees its reflection, freaks out, and kicks somebody because horses, not very smart.
Yeah, horses be kicking when they're like scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they see a reflection, they're like, other horse, kick.
Yeah. They kick more than
Yeah.
Michael Flatley at a concert.
He's the Irish dance guy.
Yes, he
How often
is.
do you think they replace his shoes? Do you think they nailed him to his feet?
He won those races in Kentucky.
Yeah.
He did.
Michael Flatley is famous all throughout the Kentucky Derby and honestly all the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
And then, now I'm just picturing like horses like legit running around the track and then just someone like Irish step dancing or whatever that's called. Like,
just, like,
also
jigging
flying
down the
the track. That shit would be so funny.
Oh.
Also, low-key, Lord of the Rings slaps. Like the music in that is pretty stellar.
If that, that low-key movie that no one ever heard of, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the
For a
Dance.
second, I was like, why is he bringing up Lord of the Rings?
Oh, you say Lord of the you said Lord of the Rings.
Oh shit, Lord of the Dance. Oh my god.
But now I'm just picturing him like Irish dancing at the Council of Elrond. You've got my tap shoes and my axe and my bow.
All right. So then the horse kicks somebody.
The horse kicks, it looks like a sandbag, or it was either a sandbag or like a bag of powder.
Cocaine. Yeah.
But it just kind of like through
It
the
kicked
air.
one of the actors' pockets. So like, like cocaine just goes everywhere. They're like,
There you go.
It was baby powder. There's, I'm chafed.
Oh, my vitamins. Oh, God.
I have a prescription. It's protein powder.
It's plant-based.
Tay-Tay gave me a prescription for that cocaine. I'm sorry, your doctor's name is Tay-Tay. He's not a doctor.
He's Dr. Feelgood.
He's my assistant.
Right.
That's probably who's procuring drugs in LA, right?
Call me Mikey. My father was Dr. Feelgood. Okay.
And that's why you can own 1 square foot of Mikey's bed.
The fuck you money level. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the literal fuck you money level.
Well, I guess we just turned Mikey into a sex worker.
If I got to get out here and jiggle my prolariat to get some money for...
Anyway, in the midst of this, kind of before the horse kicks somebody, because we kind of got ahead of ourselves, Emerald shows up, gives her speech of, who they are, what they do, but then also finishes up with like, also I do craft services, sets, sewing, like all this stuff.
A little bit of acting and singing on the side.
Yes.
Motorcycles comes back later.
Oh, motorcycles does come back later. You're right, because she does say motorcycles in that list. So the horse kicks somebody, and you immediately see on his face, like, this is done. We're not completing this project. Time to go.
Like, we're fired for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So as they're leaving, we see them wheeling in a green screen horse behind them.
Yeah.
Which to me said that like somebody on set was like, hire a real horse. And someone was like, no, animals are unpredictable. And then at the end of the day, they were like, I fucking told you. So it's kind of sad we didn't get that conversation. It would have been great. Anyway, so Emerald piles into the car and they've got Lucky in the trailer. And they drive directly to Jupiter's Claim, which is essentially like kind of a amusement park, I guess, if you want to call it that, near their house out in Agua Dulce. It's kind of like a old West town.
I would say old West town. Although there are some amusement parky type elements. I didn't see like any, were there any like roller coasters or was it just like?
I don't think so. I think it was like, I've been to a place like this in like Arizona where it's like, a ghost town,
yes.
Air quotes.
I went to a place like this close to the Grand Canyon. In fact, the reason we went there was because
Probably
they gave horse tours to the Grand Canyon, and that's where we got our horse to go on that tour. But they also had like a whole town, and there was like risers for like a stage show that we didn't see, but they did, right? So like it gave me those kind of vibes, like those Wild West sort of tourist trap sort of vibes.
Yeah, I bet we went to the same one. And the only reason I remember that it was in Arizona, like just outside of Phoenix a little bit, is that they gave us like pens that were the shape of a cactus.
Yes.
And mine was like hot pink and I was like obsessed with it.
Yeah, I had a blue one.
Anyway, so they get to Jupiter's Claim because he's there to sell Lucky, which is actually kind of sad.
Yeah.
So they go upstairs. Emerald is instantly like, oh my God, you were on Kid Sheriff. I used to watch that all the time. And we get a little bit of, he's talking through business with Jupe and he's like, hey, I'd like to actually try and buy the horses back if I could. And he's like, yeah, but how about I just buy your whole ranch, right? Like, what about that? Where he's not really offering him a chance to buy the horses back. We'll find out why in a bit.
Because those horses have been digested by a sky shark.
They eated.
Yeah.
They have eaten that whole horse.
You could really say that horses are the glue that holds this whole movie together.
Or at least that monster together.
Yeah.
So it's at this point that Emerald notices a Mad TV cover with Gordy on it. And essentially it's a Mad TV cover of Gordy murdering the people on set. Like It's in pretty bad taste considering we find out what happens later.
Yeah.
And she asks about it, and Stephen Wynn is basically like, yeah, it's 6 minutes and 13 seconds of that chimp being loose and attacking people on set.
Yeah.
And he describes a non-existent but believable SNL sketch, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where it's implied that that Chris Kattan plays Gordy, much like he would play Mr. Peepers. Where as Mr. Peepers, he was dressed very much like a monkey, but Chris Kattan would like eat an entire apple in like 2 seconds, where he would just like just like spin it and eat it at the same time,
and then like spit it out like it was.
I love those. I loved those skits back in the day.
Yeah.
But as he's telling that story, we get a flashback to him hiding on set with like blood spatter across his face, clearly just terrified.
Yeah.
Hiding from that chimp.
Dude, all of these scenes on this set, because it cuts back to it many times as we get more of the story of that event.
Right.
Man, every time it is scary and tense, and I hated it.
And it's also, there's no score that accompanies it.
Oh,
so
no, it's just silence.
Quiet.
Well,
silence.
And then like chimpanzee screams and people dying. And like, it's so scary.
Very scary. So we cut back to the house where Emerald and OJ have arrived back. And she's like, well, what did he offer? He wants to buy the ranch. And they decide to raid their dad's liquor cabinet and listen to some of his records that night. But as they're listening to records and drinking, this is where we get the first story of Jean Jacket. And that name will come back later. But Jean Jacket was supposed to be Emerald's first horse. But her dad had to use him. She thought it was a Western. We find out it was Scorpion King, which I also saw in theaters and doesn't fit on any of our podcasts. But I would love to talk about Scorpion King.
I mean, we did talk about Mummy, so...
Scorpion King is way weirder in a great way.
Yeah.
My mom and I saw that alone together, and it was mom's suggestion. But it was a great day. I think my mom might like The Rock. I don't know. I haven't asked.
What's not to like?
So, Scorpion King, but it turns out they used camels anyway. So they like trained Jean Jacket for this movie, and then they ended up not having to use him.
Right, but them training to use Jean Jacket for the movie sort of removed it from Keke Palmer's care.
It was no longer her horse.
Yeah. Her name's Emerald Haywood in the movie, but yeah.
Right. And so at this point, OJ is like, Dad did change the industry. He was really good at what he did, and I'm not ready to let that go. That's why I'm not selling the ranch.
Yeah.
So as they're talking, she looks out the window and asks, why is Ghost in the arena? Which is this little kind of area they have for training. Ghost is the white horse his dad was on when his dad passed away. Now, I'm not sure how Ghost would have gotten out there, or if they left him out there earlier. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how... Horses don't have opposable thumbs. Can they open gates? Who's to say? So OJ goes out and kind of sidles up to Ghost. And it's clear that he spends enough time around the animals that they're very comfortable around him, because he's just kind of chilling with Ghost until we see the lights on the ridge start to flicker.
Yeah.
Now, the lights on the ridge are very interesting because they're sets of 2 in red, almost like eyes. They look kind of like Mothman eyes. But as those turn out, Ghost gets agitated and just runs off.
Yeah.
And so OJ is like, that's weird. I'm just going to take the golf cart after him. So he goes out with the golf cart. Ghost is nowhere to be found. I did notice on a second viewing that the golf cart brand was Polaris, which I thought was kind of interesting, that it just like says it across the front. So as he's still looking for Ghost, all the lights go out. The turntable stops and then kind of comes back on. And he looks up and sees what we believe at the time to be a UFO, a flying saucer, gliding through the clouds. So he drives right back up to the house.
Yeah.
And Emerald is like, where's Ghost? And he's like, I don't know, but there's something out there. So they check their security cameras and they're interrupted. They can't see anything. And she's like, what did you see? Which I think makes this one of the first UFO movies where no one questions it. No one's like, was it a UFO?
Yeah.
They were just like, you definitely saw one. We just need to get it on camera.
I do sort of like that. I mean, yeah, because they're immediately bought into like, okay, my brother wouldn't lie about something like this. So let's see if we can get it on film, because the one thing that all the people who are like claiming they saw UFOs lack is like compelling video evidence.
Right, or photographic evidence, one of the two. So he says on the porch the day that Dad died, he saw something and it was big and it was fast. And she's like, so you saw a UFO? And he's like, yeah, maybe. So we cut to Fry's Electronics in Burbank, California. Fun fact about this Fry's. It is closed and has been closed since before this movie was filmed because all the Fry's Electronics closed. But they kept this building location open long enough to film this because it does have a UFO poking out of it. It always has for like years.
I did notice that. I wondered if that was part of the set. That's interesting that they've always had that. That's cool. Okay.
They've always had that. And then it used to be when you went in there was like fake aliens and stuff kind of around.
Love it.
But since it closed, it's just like an empty store. So they had to recreate a Fry's Electronics in an empty store because they had the outside, just not the inside.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I think the store might still, like the exterior might still be there. Then when you guys come out, we can go see it and see if it's still there.
Oh, nice.
So they go and they buy like a whole new camera security system. And she's kind of talking through it like, we need the Oprah shot. We need the like compelling evidence, good quality, that we would make bank if we did it.
Yeah. And they would. Like if they proved UFOs exist and UFOs are sky sharks that just want to eat people, like that would be big news and they would be the center of that story forever.
That would almost be more terrifying than actual aliens.
Well, first off, it is an alien. Secondly, yes, it would be fucking terrifying.
Wait, do you mean a literal sky shark?
No, I mean like there's UFOs, but they're actually animals that they just eat people all the time.
Oh yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah, like the animal in this movie is super scary.
Yep. So they end up at the register / like geek squad kind of guy. And he's like, do you need somebody to install this? And they're like, is it hard? And he's like, yeah, you won't be able to do this. He's like, did you get robbed? These are a lot of cameras.
I love how he goes, not for me, but like you would struggle. Like he just like to their face, like you don't look like you can handle this.
Big Todd energy when it comes to production.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing. I would probably say something like this. Like, absolutely. Because as terrible as it is to say, I am a terrible person sometimes, and I probably would say this.
There's nothing wrong with being confident. There's a thin line between confident and cocky, an asshole. There's like 3 lines. You can go through them all.
Well, there's 2 lines if it's separating. Yeah.
No, there's a line at the end, too.
So that would be 4 lines. But either way.
I thought it was hilarious that this guy becomes a main character.
Me too. I love when they start talking about like what they're trying to capture and he's like immediately on board. He's like, oh, you don't even know shit about aliens, even though you've seen one or whatever. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah. So, and they're asking him like, do these have backup power? Because like things tend to lose power around this, which is kind of a callback to the often known as Skinwalker Ranch. There are a couple different names for it, where it's a patch of land in Utah that has seen a lot of air quotes UFO phenomenon, and people tend to lose cell phone service out there.
Oh, there's a documentary on that on Netflix that just came out.
Actually, it's the show from the History Channel that they're like just replaying on Netflix, and it's wild. Because they do see some weird stuff on that show, but also it's one of those, you know how the History Channel is like, this carving couldn't have been made by a stick, and you're like, I mean, maybe it could though.
Like the pyramids, there's no way like 10,000 people could build that. And you're like,
you're like, clearly they did though.
yeah. I'm like, well, maybe they could have.
Yeah, I actually tried to watch that Skinwalker Ranch thing on Netflix and I couldn't watch it because it is like reality TV show goes to Skinwalker Ranch. And like, if we're going to do a dating show from there, that's cool for a vibe. Like I would watch that. Honestly, a dating show at Skinwalker Ranch, see who finds love and survives.
And gets radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
You guys want to see my Skinwalker?
Pass me the ranch.
Like they find a mysterious dead cow. They see something in the sky. They see something at night, and then somebody gets radiation poisoning. So like all of those things, while really interesting for television, are like par for the course for that site. Anyway, so we cut back to the ranch, and he's shown up to help them install, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize you were far out, because Agua Dulce is pretty far out. And he confesses that he went through a breakup, so he doesn't really have much to do. And he's just been like home watching Ancient Aliens, essentially.
Yeah, he's got a real overshare energy that I connected with.
So funny. So they install the cameras and point them all up at the sky. And this is where he's like, oh, you're looking for UFOs. Like, this is clearly what you're doing. And he starts talking about how he thinks the Greys are controlling the government and everything. And it's pretty great.
Yeah.
I love UFO conspiracy theory. It's wild.
Me too. And they always get stranger and stranger the more and more you read about them. So like, it's clear that he has been like drinking the UFO Kool-Aid.
Yes. So Keke Palmer, Emerald, comes home and she has clearly stolen one of the horse statues from Jupiter's claim. And Jupe is like right behind her, where he pulls up and he's like, hey, what is that? Where'd you get yours? And she's like, oh, where'd you get yours? Thanks for stopping by. Bye.
I love that they're like yelling at him like, don't come any closer. Like, we don't want you to see that we stole something from you. And he doesn't. Like, he respects that command from them, and he doesn't see that they stole his training horse.
No, he says, I have one just like it.
Well, yeah, I think what would give it away is his, like,
banner.
The banner. Like, the banner would have given it away. So, like, he doesn't see that from where he is.
No, I read this as he absolutely knows, and he's just gonna like, I am gonna lose this battle to win the war. Yeah,
that could be.
I think he's
Paige.
more worried about Sky Shark or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that is true. At this point, he does know Sky Shark is out and about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So he invites them to the show. They're like, thanks, but no. He leaves, and the Fries guy has set up the cameras, and he's like, you know, I can monitor the feeds. And they're like, we don't need that. And he's like, okay, well, you'll be getting a call for a survey, and leaves. We cut to title card Clover. So we get title cards for all the different horses as we go through.
Yeah.
So Clover kind of looks like Ghost, but has a dark mane and a dark tail. But this is where we see OJ about to go to bed, and he sees the lights on in the stables. And he goes to investigate, and it looks to be aliens. Like, there's a handful of tiny jump scares of what look like stereotypical Greys until he just hauls off and punches one of them. And it turns out to just be the kids from Jupiter's claim.
So aside from the super like Mikey energy punching a child whose only crime was wearing a mask.
I think you mean trespassing.
Okay, that's fair too, Mikey. You're right.
Dress passing because they're in costumes.
I do love this scene once it like resolves, just because it's silly, it's funny. He punches one of the children.
Scary.
Like, that's funny. Up till that point, it's terrifying. Like, I was squirming in my seat, literally had my hands over my eyes and was like peeking through my eyes. I don't know why, but especially the kid who had like the deer head on with like the things dripping off of it.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of The Ritual.
Yes, exactly. It was that similar imagery.
And he did say
it was so
the
scary.
name of the movie the first time.
Yeah, he did. Because he says it multiple times, but for this one, he just says, nope.
Nope.
And then my favorite is in the car when he just kind of like settles back into the truck and is like, nope, guess I'm sleeping here.
I live in the truck now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? I like when people react realistically to horror.
Same.
Yep. Because at a certain point, you're like, what do I even do?
But when he's in the barn, I would have run out like immediately. I mean, I do think he did the right thing by once he realized they were kids.
Punching a child.
He punched one of the children because it was close to him. But I do think he knew it was the kids before he punched them. He was just, issuing that warning.
See, I don't think he did. I think he thought it was an alien and just reacted the same way people react when they like get too close to a shark and don't know what to do. And they just...
He definitely didn't know it wasn't an alien. I was just pretending in my mind that it was Mikey, and that's what Mikey would have done. Punched a child.
And asked questions later.
Yeah.
Like, why were you in my barn?
Questions like, why are there aliens at the beginning of Act 2? Shouldn't that be an end of Act 2 thing? Yeah. So it's clearly the kids. We cut to Fry's Electronics at night, and Angel, is the character's name, is kind of closing up, and there's a shadow behind him, but it turns out to just be Barbie Ferreira, who is only in this movie for like 2 seconds for some reason. I don't know why. But we cut to the camera feeds at the ranch, and Emerald looks and jumps back thinking it's an alien, but it turns out it's just a praying mantis.
Yeah. I do love the whole praying mantis misdirect, though, because this is the first time, like, the sky shark sort of attacks them when they can, like, when they realize it, right? And because the guy from Fry's calls and is like, hey, there's a praying mantis on the camera. Can you get it off the camera? Because the other camera is out right now, signifying that, like, the sky shark is over on that side of the ranch.
Yeah, he's like, it's down, like ancient aliens down.
Yeah. That guy's character, I honestly thought he was going to die. I was so glad he didn't, but I loved that character because he was very funny.
Very funny. So OJ goes out to try and bring Clover inside, but Clover just takes off, and he watches as a tornado just like sucks the decoy horse into the sky.
Yeah.
With the trail of flags hanging.
Yeah.
And this is as Keke Palmer is still on the phone with Fry's Electronics, and he's like, can you please get the bug off the thing? So she climbs out and tries to throw Sour Patch Kids at it to get the bug to move. But as she does it, all the horses in the stables are freaking out. And they don't really see any lights or shining things or anything, but it's a cloud. It's in the cloud, and you just kind of see it gliding through the clouds.
Like my nudes.
All right, well, if you guys want Mikey's iCloud password, reach out to me and I will be giving it to the highest bidder. Mikey is now worried about what is on the cloud.
Can you have a minimum? Because like the highest bidder could be like $7.
Yeah, and if that's what it takes, Mikey, that's what it takes.
They're going to have to meet a reserve of $69.
Nice.
Anyway, so the aircraft, as we believe it to be at this point, flies off and dips over the mountains. And so she, of course, as it's flying away, the praying mantis flies off.
Yeah.
And they go inside and they're like, well, it's not coming back again tonight. Like it ate Clover and it ate this decoy. Like we're fucked.
Yeah, it's full of one horse and one metal horse.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like that horse was fucking metal. I mean like it was like a training horse, like the one that they stole from.
Right. I mean, it could have been metal though. It could have been a wild stallion.
Metal horse.
But we do get a flashback to him working with his dad, talking about how Ghost is all territorial and that some animals aren't trainable. And he looks over to the wall in the kitchen where the quarter that killed his dad is hanging, still in the evidence bag, pinned to the wall.
Yeah.
And then he vows revenge to kill George Washington again.
There you go. To dig him up and then kill him again. So they call the documentary filmmaker. His name is, I believe, Antler is his name that he's credited as. But they basically are like, it's the chance of a lifetime. It's a passion project. We need you to come film it with something that doesn't have electricity, essentially.
Do you have a fun fact about his character?
So I think I do.
Okay, because I was going to share it if you weren't going to share it.
Well, let me tell you what I think that I saw in a second viewing, and then you can tell me yours if it's different. So in this scene, they say it's a chance of a lifetime, and he's like, hopefully not my lifetime.
Yeah.
Which didn't super make sense to me the first time. But then later, as he is waiting to try and like get the final shot, he takes pills that look like they're cancer pills or painkillers.
Yes.
I think he's dying.
They cut out a terminal illness subplot.
That makes so much sense. I didn't realize it till the second one that I was like, oh, I bet he's terminally ill. And then it made his storyline make a whole lot more sense. Yeah.
I honestly dug his character a lot, although he is a little insane,
100.
but I love his unhingedness. I love that he is like, he's been given the opportunity to get this impossible shot because it can't be captured using electricity. And he like MacGyver's a camera to work. I was like, this guy is...
He has to hand crank.
Yeah. This guy is amazingly gifted at engineering, not just like cinematography. Like he built a camera. Like that's crazy.
Well, I mean, the original film cameras didn't need electricity.
Well, I know way back in the day, but like that has not been a thing for like 100 years, less than that, but a long time.
Fun fact, when I was in film school, one of my best friends was also in film school at a different college, and her school made her learn how to hand crank.
What that tells me is where your friend went to school, they have not updated the curriculum in like 50 years, and she should get a refund on that class.
They also had to learn how to shoot on digital.
Of course.
She's like, today's lesson is title cards between the silent shots so you know what the characters are saying.
Right? Today in film school, we're going to learn how to play the piano behind silent films.
Anyway, so he has an old camera. He has a hand crank. And the trick with hand cranking that they talk about a little bit in this, because he instructs the Fry's guy on kind of how to do it, you have to crank at a consistent speed, because if you speed up or slow down, it changes the film. So it changes the speed at which you watch things back.
You literally would have to know how to like crank at 23 1/3 or whatever,
Exactly.
like revolutions per minute, which is so crazy. Like that's such a specific speed that you'd have to like internalize. That's so crazy.
Well, it's kind of like, well, this is gonna, you might understand this. It's kind of like being a drummer. It just becomes a muscle memory beat.
Yeah. When I crank, it usually starts slow and steady, and then we finish fast.
Now, here's the cool thing though. If you do hand crank and if you get good at it,
I am.
Great.
Very good at it.
You can actually create really cool effects by hand cranking.
Yeah, you can.
So sometimes you'll see people input little bits of it in movies for effect specifically.
Mikey's little bits or just like hand crank little bits?
Yeah.
I mean, little is generous.
I've seen that vitamin water picture. It ain't little.
Oh, it's little. Everybody, it's all small. That way, if you ever meet it, it's like meeting.
If you ever meet it, is what he said, Paige. Like,
Meet it, MEAT. Sorry, I just accidentally poured ice water on myself and it was delightful. This room is 90 some odd degrees.
You don't look warm at all.
Really?
no, you look very warm.
you look
Paige.
very, very
Yeah, you look
uncomfortable,
very
yeah.
miserable. I'm so sorry.
I'm wildly uncomfortable.
You look like you're recording from a sauna.
I basically am.
Congratulations on your new sauna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My favorite was when I had really bad food poisoning. You told me congratulations on my weight loss journey.
That was very funny. Yeah.
It was hysterical.
It's called reframing. We use it in
Right.
therapy. I don't use it correctly.
Are you enjoying your spa weekend?
Yeah. People pay good money for this page. You need to enjoy it. Get some cucumbers, throw that shit on your eyes.
Get some hot rocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he turns them down. He's not going to do the project. And he basically just hangs up on them. But as he's doing that, the guy from Fry's rolls up and is like, "Oh my God, it's real."
Yeah.
And he's just like standing outside looking at the sky and they're like, "What?" And he's like, "That cloud hasn't moved in maybe like since you put the cameras in." And then OJ says it hasn't moved in 6 months. So, and that's just him thinking about like, how long have I seen that cloud? It's not like he was out there every day recording it.
Yeah.
So they have proof on video, at least for as long as they've had the cameras. And they're like, well, that could just be a weather phenomenon. Or if this is Cult Podcast, it could be a crazy guy observing an explosion from a local army base, convinced that it is in fact Jesus. That happened a couple weeks ago.
Oh, man.
But they basically know that it's hiding in that cloud right there.
Yeah.
And he does comment, it doesn't move like a ship. And then he says, what if it's not a ship? And we immediately cut to a flashback of the Gordy show, specifically the birthday episode, and it just says 1998. And we watch as all hell has broken loose. The mom from the show is not quite dead, but about to be dead on the ground, and one of her shoes is standing upright.
Yeah, like from the heel to the toe, it's like it's stuck to the ground with like the toe pointing straight up.
In an unnatural way, a way that a shoe would not be able to stand on its own typically.
Oh, I mean, not for any length of time. It would fall to the left or the right, because there's no flat surface for the heel to sit on, so it would fall over.
Right.
Yeah.
And we watch as the guy who plays the dad on the show tries to distract Gordy,
Yeah.
the chimp, and he's immediately murdered.
It does not go well for him.
Yeah, it does not go well. Gordy comes back to finish the job with the mom. And the one thing that I kind of love is that as it pans through and you see that the audience has taken off and just left these people to fend for themselves.
I mean,
Hell
that's
yeah.
what you should do in that situation.
Yes.
Like, I mean, and
100%.
get help, and which they do. We see the police show up later, but like,
Not me, man. This is my one chance to fight a chimp, and I'll probably die.
you would lose. You would absolutely lose.
You would lose, yeah.
I would use a weapon, I think.
Well, yeah, I think that'd be your only hope. But what's really fun is as it pans across the empty audience seats, the applause signs are all still on.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really funny. But Gordy goes to look under the table where Jupe is hiding.
Yeah, young Jupe.
And he doesn't immediately attack him. In fact, he signs something and then he goes to fist bump him under the table.
It's so creepy because it's like the chimp is remembering what he was trained to do. So he's like doing the action that he was trained. And then it very clearly, at least in my mind, shifts to where the chimp is now going to murder Jupe.
So I actually have a fun fact. Chimp is not going to murder him.
What was he going to do?
The chimp signs to him where is family, because the chimp doesn't understand that it has just murdered the family. Like the balloon pops, the chimp goes crazy and then doesn't comprehend what has happened. And so he is reaching out to fist bump, and little Jupe goes to answer and fist bump. And then before they can actually connect, the police come up behind and shoot the chimp in the head.
Yeah.
Taking it down, essentially.
Which is unfortunately what you would have to do in that situation, right? Like, because you don't know what it's going to happen.
This exact situation has happened more than once.
Oh.
Fun facts. I
and
have
people
them
have
in
died?
fun facts. No.
Okay, so not this exact situation, but like chimpanzees having to be put down on set is a thing?
So, do you want me to burn the fun facts right now?
Sure, then let's just burn this one
Okay.
right now. Yeah.
Burn the
Okay.
shit out of them.
So there was an SNL episode, which I think is why he references SNL.
Sure, that would make sense.
Yeah, SNL used to have a sketch called I Married a Monkey, where Tim Kazurinsky acted alongside a chimpanzee. And this is back when you still could, because now you can't really use chimps on set because of this.
Yeah.
The sketch ended in season 9, episode 11, because one time during dress rehearsal, the chimp got angry, flew into a rage, and attacked him.
Oh, no.
He tried to bite him multiple times.
Yeah.
And the handlers were able to pull the chimp off. And according to Tim Kazurinsky, this is not necessarily verified outside of his recollection. He was under the impression that the chimp's teeth were removed as a result, which sounds incredibly cruel. I don't know if that is actually what happened.
Fair enough.
Additionally, there was a couple who tried to raise a chimp in their home and successfully did for about 20 years.
I remember this story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that chimp worked on sets and a couple other things. However, the chimp didn't have natural, like it didn't know how to socialize with other animals. It was raised in a human home. It was raised eating human food. Its health was not good. And it had become more and more agitated because a human home is not a place to raise a chimp.
It's barely a place to raise a child.
Yeah. As the handlers got older, they could not take care of the chimp the way they used to anymore.
Yeah.
And so at one point, a friend came over.
Yeah.
And the chimp attacked her and removed most of the bottom portion of her face.
Yeah.
While she stabbed it multiple times to get it off of her. And the chimp survived, although was later put down. But she had to have widespread facial reconstructive surgery, much like the woman that is depicted in this movie. In fact, she wears a veil very similar.
Yeah.
And her face looks very similar.
When they show her later in this movie, actually pretty soon after where we're talking about right now, I was like, oh my God, that's the woman from the set back in the 1990s or whatever. Like, I thought that she had died until they show her, because she was brutally beaten.
So the one that is beaten does die.
Oh, okay.
This is the little girl.
Oh, okay.
And you can tell because she has a picture of herself on her sweatshirt.
That's right.
Which is kind of fun. So from the fist bump to headshot, we cut to him as an adult getting ready for their live show.
Yeah, with I assume his wife, right?
Yeah, I think so, because there's pictures of them pitching a reality show.
Yeah.
About,
they got it.
Yeah, because there's like a poster, and it seems like it's her and their 2 kids. And he's clearly stressed out, and she's like doing like acupressure on his hand.
Yeah.
We cut to the ranch where they're bagging the cameras because they know there's a storm coming, and they want to be able to still get footage. But as they're doing that, OJ finds a flyer for the show, and he's like, I'm going to go see Lucky. Like, I'm going to go see this show.
Do you think at this point he knows that the horses are being fed to this creature? Because he did sort of just see a horse get eaten and a training horse get devoured as well.
I think he may have suspicions. I don't know if he knows for sure. I think he has figured out that they can see the flying saucer because that flyer has kind of a space look to it.
And they, once OJ and his sister know, they like act super suspicious.
Yeah.
So he shows up, and we get to the arena where they have cactus ices.
I was there for that.
I'm curious. I would try one because I've tried cactus soda and stuff before. It's got a very interesting taste. And they also have like alien merch and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And they start the soundtrack, and he basically says his little spiel about like when they first discovered this creature. And he says, in the next hour, you will see a spectacle like you've never seen. Remember what I said about spectacles early in the episode?
Yeah.
That line is exactly 1 hour from the end of the film.
Okay.
To the minute. Like, they must have been real careful with their cuts, but
yeah,
yes.
with that, they must have been very careful with the editing of it. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So they have Lucky in like a plexiglass cage, and clearly they're going to try and feed Lucky to this UFO. And it appears in the sky, and he literally says, he's like, it's given us a show tonight. And we kind of pan through the audience, and it's kind of sparse, but one of the people that is there is his former co-star with the veil, and it blows, and you can kind of see that her face is very, very scarred from being attacked by the chimp.
Yeah, she's missing a lot of the soft tissue around her jaw.
Yeah. Honestly, it looks a lot like she's a burn victim.
Yes.
I was going to say took a sip from the wrong grail.
Yeah, she did choose poorly.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is the cup of a carpenter. So as they're watching, the UFO basically sucks up the entire arena and all of them with it.
It had a bad day. And sometimes when the UFO is feeling like down, it'll binge eat. Like I binge eat wings, but its wings are people.
Because it had a bad day and it ate a whole crowd. Now it's barfed up their blood and it's flying around. Yeah.
Well, that's why he gets the shits, because he ate too much.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Mikey brings up an interesting point. Does the sky shark have just like a cloaca? It's like the single hole that does both pees and poops?
An inus and an anus?
Does it mean that it's a bird? Is this just a weird bird?
I feel like it was a sentient Party City balloon.
Because you have an in hole and you have an out hole and you eat stuff through the hole, then it goes out the hole.
But all of those holes are the same hole, Paige.
Yeah.
Hold on, Todd. Wait, we didn't think about this. It could be like a woman where they have different tubes going down through that hole.
Mikey's right.
Babies come out one tube, pee-pee comes out another tube. And that's why when a woman gets her tubes tied, she can't pee again.
What? No.
I don't think that that's scientifically accurate.
You were doing so well. So the horse won't come out of the plexiglass. Smart, 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 smart. It eats the rest of the crowd. The horse gets away.
The horse had been icing and had to be put in there.
It was in the penalty box for sure.
Yeah.
See, when you said icing, I pictured the horse kneeling and offering the UFO a Smirnoff ice. That it just like, all right, and then just like sucks it up into the hole. Anyway, so by the time OJ gets there, the place is deserted, except for some things have been moved around because of tornadoes, including there's a pig on a roof.
Yeah.
And it is a live pig.
Like a live ass pig. Yeah.
Yeah, implying that pigs have flown.
At least in this movie. Well, and anytime a tornado goes through a pig farm, like that would definitely happen.
Right. So he goes to the arena to try and take Lucky back, and he ends up having to hide from the UFO in the wreckage of the arena, but does save Lucky.
Yeah. That shit was so cool. The way he like called it over, and like that was so tense too, because it's like flying around, like the shot's looking up at the clouds and then it like just like going up to the edge of the cloud to where you can barely see it. Clearly it's stalking what's below it. Like it's just so creepy and cool. Like I dug that part of this movie. Like the scary parts I hated, but like it is effective. Like it is good at what it does.
Here at People Stop.
I want people as garlic parmesan, mild, and that new smoky Louisiana barbecue.
I can only eat like 7 people in one sitting. I can't eat more than that.
Amateur. So we cut back to the ranch where the fries guy is leaving and Emerald is at home kind of watching the cameras and kind of freaking out. She's playing some home movies about her dad, but she's clearly not feeling great after the night before. Yeah. Then the power goes out, including the vans. So the Fry's van breaks down. OJ's truck breaks down. Fry's guy runs back inside the house and he's like, we're in trouble. And he grabs a knife. And I think at this point, they're still afraid that aliens are going to come out of it because they're not sure even that it's like an animal yet. Like we've seen it eat all those people and then suck those people up into the stomach thing, which is terrifying.
Yeah, but I don't think even OJ saw that.
Right.
I don't think he has even put it together that it's not like aliens. Like the UFO is the animal itself. Like I do think they grasp that in a moment, but I don't think they get that yet.
I think he grasped it quicker. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually in this scene because he
sees it.
He talks about it.
Yeah.
So Fry Guy gets to the house, freaked out, and it's at this point as OJ's coming home, he's trying to call her and he says, I was right, it's not a ship, it's an animal, it's territorial, and it thinks this is his home. And just as he says that, the call drops. So she and Fry's guy are trapped in the house with a knife, hiding under the tables, and he's trapped in the truck.
Yeah.
And the air around the house swirls, and we hear the screams of the people being digested, and now we know what that is.
Yeah.
Which is horrifying.
It is horrifying. But it's also like a familiar sound. We've heard it before.
Right.
Like every time we heard the ship, and we just thought it was like the wind blowing. So freaky.
And there is a storm that night, but it's hovering directly over the house, and the storm water is like coming down over the sides.
Yeah.
And it starts raining all of their belongings and pieces of stuff down onto the house, and just streams of blood. Like blood streams down the windows and onto the porch. It's just vomiting blood onto the outside of the house.
It's raining blood.
Hallelujah, it's raining keys and blood.
Holy shit. You know what I would do immediately if I was OJ? After the Sky Shark left, I would go collect all the keys and then go to the parking lot at Jupe's like tourist trap area.
I think that's how they get the batteries.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, cool. So they just like steal all the batteries from the dead people's cars.
Yeah, they have their own gone in 60 seconds moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Technically, I think the Sky Shark it's that time of the month, you know?
I think it's the time of the day where he gets rid of everything that he can't digest.
Or it's a she, and that hole has 3 purposes.
Have they tried throwing chocolate into the hole?
Oh my God. I think it doesn't matter what the gender of the UFO animal is of Sky Shark. It doesn't matter.
Okay, but like maybe the Sky Shark just needs to like get some donut holes and watch Outlander for a day or two. Like,
I mean, honestly, that sounds amazing. I would do that.
They should put a heating pad right above its hole.
I usually use mine on my back.
Look, I don't know what's inside there. It's a UFO.
It's a bunch of keys and blood. Just keys and blood.
Well, what was inside there is keys and blood, which is why it's shitting that down onto the house. For like a good 30 seconds of this movie, it's just like raining blood on the house. It's wild.
And I really hate it in the background where it's like, oh.
Yeah, like if you're sustaining that level of like output, like you've got intestinal issues.
Yeah, you should take some medicine.
Yeah, you need to go to the doctor, Sky Shark.
Sky Shark needs some witch hazel.
I was going to say Imodium AD. I don't know what witch hazel would do because...
Well, Imodium would stop you up, which means you're going to have to push harder, which means you might cause more bleeding.
I think Imodium is the best decision if you're having a shitting out blood for 30 seconds at a time. Well, you should probably see a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and say you should see a doctor.
So some medications have shitting blood as a side effect. So there you go.
If you find yourself hovering 100 feet above a house, shitting blood on top of that house and keys.
You might be possessed.
Or you might have just eaten red velvet cake that had beets in it and you didn't realize it was beets. And then you were in the office, like going to the bathroom thinking that you were dying because it looked like blood, but it turned out it was just the cake for your boss's birthday.
Or you could be like me. Come home during college to your mom's house who's on a diet. You eat 6 muffins that tasted like apple cinnamon with chunks of real apple in them. Then your mom comes home from work and tells you, those were special fiber muffins that I used. Then you poop a lot.
I'm realizing that I don't have an anecdotal go-to, here's a time I thought I shit blood story.
Oh, I'm Todd, and I've never shat blood.
Oh, I've never eaten a buffet. My name's Todd.
I've never had to be... Actually, the one time that I did actually shit blood is because I had to be on metformin when they were regulating my asthma medication, because asthma medications are usually steroid-based, which makes your blood sugar weird or whatever. So I had to be on diabetes medication for a while, but because my blood sugar wasn't actually fucked up, it would just make me shit blood constantly.
Oh.
It was terrible. So glad I don't have to take it anymore. Dupixent, y'all. Yay.
Yay!
But yeah, I'm Todd and I've never shat blood.
Why did we go back to making fun of me for not shitting blood?
Because all the cool kids are shitting blood, Todd.
You know how I know you've never lived? You never almost died shitting.
I mean,
don't you want to be like Elvis? No, nobody does. It's fine.
Girl, do you shit blood with that ass?
Girl, you shit blood with that ass?
Please don't update that pickup line to say that.
Too late. Put it on shirts.
Put it on a shirt.
No, put it on underwear, like on the across the butt.
On the back, yeah.
Yeah, girl, you shit blood with that
But
ass?
it has to be red underwear, so you can't tell if you are shitting blood or not.
Black underwear is better for that.
Oh, okay.
Pro tip.
I can tell you've never shit blood. God.
Yeah, you don't even know about the black underwear trick.
Blood's pretty dark after it dries, especially from your ass.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to move on.
I feel like we need more hours of making fun of you for not shitting blood.
I think we may have hit our fill.
Toilets are pretty big, my friend. I think there's more room.
Yeah, the double flusher.
Anyway, the alien is double flushing all over the house, and
it's a scary scene.
It's real shitty.
Super shitty.
So my favorite part of the scene was the other UFO right next to it being like, oh, thank God you're not pregnant.
Oh my God.
Usually for me, that's one and the same UFO where I'm like, blood. Oh, thank goodness. I'm going to go get an Oreo shake. Like, yay.
To celebrate.
Yeah. Anyway, so this alien has not had its Oreo shake yet. As the sun rises, the cars kind of power back up, and OJ tries to get from his truck, which, by the way, in the blood melee rain, it drops that fake horse on his truck.
Oh, yeah. Like, head is in the passenger seat. Like, it almost kills him.
Anyway, so he goes to the Fry's van and opens it so he can get Emerald and the Fry guy inside. And they make it to the van. They drive. And he says, don't look it in the eyes. I feel like it doesn't like you to look it in the eyes. So we cut to Fry Guy's apartment where they're playing VR, or at least the two of them are playing VR, and he's just kind of chilling there thinking about what has happened. And my favorite is Angel, the Fry's employee, is like sitting in a chair playing VR, but Emerald is just like facing a wall. Like, you know, in video games where you get stuck in a corner, it's like that.
I felt like he was watching VR porn. That was my personal take from this scene.
And she was like cutting the cake at that wedding while you were with the bridesmaid.
Yeah, he's watching himself cheat on his future wife and like feeling really bad about it. And he just, has his head slumped. Anybody else?
You are the only person I've heard talk about VR porn, full stop. So, like, I don't know anyone else's take on it, but your take on it is my favorite.
I will say that people are embarrassed.
No, I've heard other people talk about it. And they all kind of had the same reaction where they were just like, this is strange.
Yeah.
So they end up going to a restaurant. And this is where OJ finally speaks up, where he's like, I don't think it eats you if you don't look it in the eye. And they're like, we don't want to talk about the last 24 hours and all of the shit blood. So he basically is like, we don't have any video or anything of it, but I think I understand it a little bit better. So they drive back to the house.
Yeah.
And the documentary photographer meets them there, and he just says, that cloud hasn't moved. Like, he automatically notices it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's not hungry. And he's like, well, I saw the news report of what happened, and so I figured this must have been the same shit that you were talking about. And they explain that the fake horse and the flags messed it up really good. It won't fuck with flags anymore, but we're not the reason it settled down here. Jupiter's claim is they tried to tame a predator, and they didn't enter into an agreement with the entity. And it's at this point that OJ kind of names it Jean Jacket.
Right.
After that horse.
Which I get, like, Jean Jacket is fine for alliteration, but nothing's better than Sky Shark. Like, what are we doing,
Sky
guys?
Shark's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sky Shark! Sharking to the max, chewing up all your stuff, it's Sky Shark.
I do love that, like, Paige just came up with, like, the theme song that Sky Shark would have if it was an 80s cartoon, and I'm here for it.
Well, it's if it was Food Max. Food Max.
Get into the zone. Food zone.
Yeah, into the zone. Sharko zone. Yeah.
I do love that, like, every company's song has to be to the tune of AutoZone now, and that makes me very happy.
So at first the documentary guy is like, well, let's just get other horses and feed it to it so it'll come out. And he's like, no, they're horse people. Don't.
I do love how that's the Fries guy who says that. He's like, no. They're horse people. We can't suggest that. Like, I've already floated that balloon. It did not go well.
Didn't go well. And so he's like, well, then who's going to get this thing out of its trailer? And OJ is like, I can get him out. Where do you want him? So they lay out like a topographical map of the like valley and the ranch.
Yeah.
And they start kind of labeling where things are. And we get kind of a montage of the plan. So what they're going to do is they've stolen a bunch of batteries from all the cars at Jupiter's Claim, and they stole all the like wacky wobblers from the car dealership. And they're going to put them all across the valley.
Yeah.
So that they can see when they fall down, when the power's going out, they can see where it's at.
I love this. This is so smart because they can visually see at a glance where he is above them, based upon the wacky inflatable arms guys either being inflated or not inflated. And if they're not inflated, he's above them.
Well, and also they have eyes. So because they have eyes, it looks like they're looking at him.
Yeah.
So he eats a couple of them.
Yeah.
So we also see them sewing their clothes, like she sews the reflectors onto the back of OJ's hood. She sews her kind of green outfit that has eyes kind of on the back of it. And the plan is for OJ to kind of do a run with the eyes up and kind of lead it to where they want to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
On a horse.
This is also where he's like, I can break it. Like you would break a horse.
Yeah, I can break it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think his plan is to using the eyes on the back of his head, and he has the horse with blinders on, so the horse can't look up.
I do love the way he's like explaining how that horse that he's going to ride gives the least fucks out of all of the remaining horses. And he like tests it like by making sounds close to it or whatever, and the horse is just like quietly quit his job, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Absolutely. So they set it up. They also set up like a video village kind of thing for the cameras.
Yeah.
And as they're looking out over the field on launch day, they like inflate all the inflatables and they see one go down. And then they see it kind of go back up. And at first they're like, oh, maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe the battery isn't hooked up right.
Yeah.
But OJ knows. And he's like, no, he's poking. Like he's after this. And as they're looking at it, a motorcycle drives up. And it is an electric motorcycle, we will find out. And he has a reflective helmet a lot like the horse.
Yeah, he has that reflector thing that they showed the horse at the beginning, right? And that scared the horse.
Yeah, like as a helmet, basically, yeah.
Except there's one hole cut out for like an eye hole. And I was like, this is a bonkers helmet.
I think that hole is a camera.
Awesome. I'm here for that.
Or for the camera.
Or for the camera. Yeah, that could be.
Either way, it's so cool. I love the way the TMZ character looks. It's wild.
Yeah.
Do you think he eats and shits with that hole?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. If you had to pick one hole to eat and poop out of, which hole are you picking?
I think I'm going to keep it as my butt.
Yeah.
You got to eat in your butt and poop out your butt?
I would definitely eat with my butt.
Yeah, because I'm okay with not tasting food. I'm just really not okay with tasting poop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you shitting with that mouth, Mikey? Is that what you're saying?
I haven't thought about it. I'm thinking maybe like an ear.
Anything that doesn't have taste buds, really, I think is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this scenario, your taste buds don't taste poop. It like shuts down.
I don't think I want to shit out my mouth. Just full stop.
Then why are we even podcasting? That's a long joke setup.
Anyway, so this dude drives up looking like Daft Punk. He tells them that this entire section is blurry on Google Maps, which I think is really interesting because the cameras don't work, I'm guessing.
I would assume so, yeah.
So he drives away, even though Emerald tries to stop him, but he gets right underneath where the animal is and it just shuts his bike down and tosses him like 30 feet.
Which I don't think that's what happens when a bike loses power. Like even an electric bike, I think it would just coast, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know.
But it reacts like he hits an invisible brick wall. He goes like the front wheel goes like into the ground and he flips off of the bike.
Right.
Like this kid is dead. Like he hits his neck on the way down. There's no way he's going to make it.
And they're like, there's no way that guy is alive. And then they just hear like, help.
I love that part too. And then OJ, because OJ's a good guy, he like rides over to him to like sort of like try and help him, right? And then the guy's like, did you guys get that on camera? Like, I love how all he's thinking about in this moment where he dies is like, did we get it on film? Can I sell this footage?
Well, and his arms are broken and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And he asks OJ why he's not filming it, this whole thing. So, but as OJ is standing near him, he sees the other wacky wobbler. So he knows that it's right overhead and he's like, I gotta go, and gets on the horse and leaves the guy to get sucked up by the entity.
Yeah, by the sky shark. Yeah.
The sky shark. And it eats a wobbler from the ground and eats the TMZ guy.
Yeah.
And OJ says, I'm going to do a run. And he puts his hood up and runs the course. And we watch as the little wacky wobblers collapse behind him. And the animal follows. And the camera runs out of film. So they're like running to try and film it, like to fill new film canisters.
Yeah, and that's the crank camera, right? And they've got like reels like set up on like what looks like a World War II like machine gun. They're like loading it on the side and like.
Fun fact, that's an IMAX camera.
No shit. Okay, cool.
Yes. As it cuts and turns around, you actually see IMAX on the side of it. So that is an IMAX camera. And then he's got the smaller one that's his hand crank.
Okay, cool.
I have a question about this scene.
Sure.
And we can talk about it as it rolls out, but he got all the shots with his hand crank camera.
I think he did. And he takes the hand crank with him when he gets sucked up, but I think the IMAX camera also has shots.
Right, and it'll get shit out too.
I think so, because it does eat like that whole tent, so I think the implication is they don't have it, like they got the shot, but it ate it. But
if it does spit it back out and they could save that film, they could have it, but I mean, who knows?
Who knows? As OJ is riding, he deploys like a string of flags, which stops the animal. So he is like training it like a horse, like follow me, stop following me.
Well, and he knows that it does not like flags because it associates flags with like that metal horse that he couldn't digest, right?
Right. And so he rides and bails out into the stables. Lucky keeps running. The alien kind of stops and he's like, oh my God, it worked. Like we actually did this. So they, in theory, have it on the little IMAX camera, but then the documentary filmmaker is like, all right, I'm getting my hand cam because this is how I'm going out.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to get that impossible shot if it kills me. And guess what?
Yep. Well, and I think for him, he's like, this is how I want to go out.
Yeah. Well, and what we discovered is that they cut out a subplot where he has like a terminal illness.
Right.
So like if you look at it through that lens, pun intended, I can either go out slowly to cancer, depending on the cancer, or I can go out like a fucking legend right now. Like, I do understand why you might make that choice.
Yeah, because I think in his mind, he's like, best case, I get the shot. Worst case, I die and I'm dying anyway.
Yeah, I die 6 months earlier.
Yeah. So he climbs up the hill and it, of course, totally eats him and the camera tent.
Yeah.
And Angel narrowly escapes getting eaten because he gets wrapped up in a tarp with barbed wire that's attached to the fence.
Yeah.
So it kind of holds him to that fence so he survives.
But he is like in the air, like it looks like
Yeah.
like from Twister or some shit where like it is trying to suck him up and he just can't because he's like tied up in tarp and barbed wire.
Yeah, and it moves over to the stables where Emerald is hiding. So now it's in between Emerald and OJ and it kind of sucks up part of the stable so she's exposed.
Yeah.
And she has to kind of walk and not look at it and she makes it to the bike but it won't start because it's electric.
Yeah, and it's above her. Yeah.
As that's all happening, the animal starts to transform and kind of expand into this big flowy kind of thing.
It looks like a pirate sail.
Yes.
I might have missed it. I've only seen it once and it was like 2 days ago at this point. So like, I don't remember seeing it transform into the sail. I remember it transforming back into like the UFO like that we recognized throughout the whole movie. But it was like a very fast transition from it looking like what we've seen the whole movie to pirate sail. I was like, wait, what happened?
I thought it sucked up the barbed wire and cut open.
That's what I thought initially at first because it does look like it kind of deflates. And maybe that is what happened.
But it could be a more aggressive stance.
Maybe, I don't know, because its stomach is exposed at that point. That square thing is its stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So
Who knows?
who knows?
And its eye too. It's like all of the holes.
There you go.
Your favorite, Mikey.
A cloaca, if you will. So OJ draws it away so that Emerald can get on the bike.
Yeah.
And she takes off towards Jupiter's claim. And she rides through the park dragging like police tape like flags and then pulling flags to release the Jupiter balloon man. And then she does like an Akira slide to the well on that bike, which looks dope as hell.
It's
It's
so
pretty
cool.
cool, yeah.
It is awesome. Yeah. And I was like, damn, she was right. She can do motorcycles.
Yeah, she can. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
So as the balloon's floating and it's going to attack and eat the balloon, she is using that crank well that takes pictures straight up. So you're supposed to like lean over the well, take a picture. And she's using just like tokens she's finding on the ground, trying to crank it. And as it moves over the well, she cranks it. She gets one shot of it as it eats the balloon, which then kills it.
Yeah. Dude, it flying away and then like the balloon exploding and you see like parts of the balloon come out the top of it and you're like, oh,
Yep.
damn, it killed it. Like that Burger Boy balloon or whatever it was legit just killed it.
It's Jupiter.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is. You're right. It's like a caricature of Jupe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's so funny.
So the news crews and the police arrive. She's got her photo, though. She's got her photographic evidence as OJ rides through the park to her.
And that's the movie.
And they technically have the body if it lands.
Yeah, if it falls to Earth, yeah.
It does fall to Earth. I do think that they would have the body, although it would probably be the government would get that body quickly, right?
Right.
So, I mean, but they would still have proof, and they have the Oprah shot, which is what they were trying to get the whole time.
Yeah.
Definitive proof that it exists, right?
Yes.
So, having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what do you guys think about Nope?
I really liked it. It was really fun. I liked it even better on a second watch.
I liked it too. I think it's a rewatchable movie and like kind of like a fun horror movie.
I was going to say that, Mikey. Even though parts of this really, really did scare me, I do think I could watch this again knowing that those parts exist and where they are and like all of that, right?
Mhm.
So it's just less scary on a second rewatch. But the movie is watchable. Like it is sort of fun. It's a big budget B movie with a great script. Like you never get those. And we have one now and it's awesome. Like
We haven't had one since Malignant.
oh shit.
Oh, I love Malignant. This is better than Malignant.
It's way better than Malignant. Yes.
But it's got the vibe.
Exactly, yeah. But I will say, oh shit, I think Malignant's better. I mean, I think Malignant is more fun to watch because it is just like
crazier,
batshit insane. And I love every second of it. This one is just like a good movie that also is like a sort of a B movie plot to it, which I like. It's good.
You know what this movie was missing? Kikawa Shaw. Detective Kikawa Shaw.
If you listen back to that episode, you say his name, like full name, like government name every time you say it. It's so funny to me. It's like one of those underserved bits. It's so funny. Anyway, Paige, you have some fun facts for us?
I have a lot of fun facts. We're going to try and move through them fast.
Well, hit us with your fun facts. Sky
Aliens,
Shark, fun facts.
Cloaca, fun facts. So the early clip of a jockey riding a horse that in this movie, Emerald and OJ claim is their great-great-grandfather is actually a real animated series of photographs from 1878. And it is one of the first moving images ever.
Yeah.
And it's become known as Sally Gardner at a Gallop. Sally Gardner is the name of the horse. There are two jockeys involved in the making of those photographs. They are listed as C. Marvin and G. Dom, but neither of their identities are actually known. Those are just names ascribed after. Nobody has identified them technically.
Okay, so that story isn't necessarily true?
It's not true.
Okay.
However, and people don't know if they were black. However, in those days, many jockeys were black. 13 of the 15 jockeys racing at the first Kentucky Derby in 1875 were black. So it is actually more historically accurate for that jockey to be black. So it's very likely that whoever is in those photos is.
Cool. I really love that story. I really wanted it to be true.
Yeah, I know. Edward Muybridge is referenced quite a bit as taking the first motion picture of that jockey riding a horse. However, he was originally a renowned nature photographer, and he was infamous for risking his life to take extremely dangerous shots, which was very difficult at the time because your camera had to sit longer to actually take photographs.
Yeah.
Later in life, he ended up on trial for murdering his wife's lover and pled that he was not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. And his defense was that no sane man would have gone to the lengths that he did to get photographs. Therefore, he was also not of sound mind when he murdered his wife's lover.
Did that hold up? That seems like a stretch, yeah.
No, it didn't really hold up. But the character of the documentary filmmaker is kind of based on him.
Oh, okay. I mean, he did sort of seem insane then. I mean, that does sort of check out based on Antlers Holst, which is his name in the movie.
Yes. Now, this next fun fact is something that I had to bring up because we talk about it every time we see it in movies, and this is one of the few times we've not been able to pick it out. Most of the night sequences in the films
are during the day.
Yes. Specifically those shot in Haywood's field, where the horse pens are and all of the ridge and everything, were actually shot in the day with a rig built by cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytema, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. They were shot with a 70 millimeter Panavision film camera and a digital ARRI Alexa 65 camera, as well as an IMAX camera. And they've modified all the cameras to make it less sensitive to light. And they also used a 3D camera rig, so they could take multiple images at once with all these different cameras.
Yeah.
And essentially, this isn't the first movie to do it. There's a lunar chase sequence in Ad Astra from 2019 that also uses this technique. And then the multiple images are composited together to make the night scenes bright without artificial moonlight. So that's why the night scenes in this look very visible, but are still definitely nighttime, because they are actually shot during the day, which is really interesting and very difficult to do because it looks like nighttime. It does.
It does. Normally when we bring this up, we're bringing it up because it looks bad.
Right.
This is a movie that does it, and it looks very convincing.
Not only convincing, I think it looks good because I feel like sometimes when you see night in movies, it can seem overly dark.
Yeah. And I'm sure Jordan Peele knows this because he is, African-American, so he knows how to light people with darker skin tones. It's really hard to light them convincingly at night because you have to put more light on them than you would typically have to put on them like during the day. And that can sometimes cause like reflections of the light. Like you'll see it on a cheek, it'll be like shiny at one point, So that kind of stuff is hard to avoid, but shooting it this way, which is a technique I don't have the gear to do this, but
yeah, very few people do.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a much better way or much more effective way to both get like the clouds that you need to see because they're plot
The
points.
depth of the sky, yes.
But also the skin tones, because everyone looks great in this movie, and that's so hard to do at night if you're shooting actually at night.
So this is actually not the first time that Jordan Peele has done something like that specifically to shoot darker skin tones correctly.
Yeah.
Many people don't know this, but you learn it now, I guess. Part of the way that people set up shots and lighting is with color correction cards.
Yeah.
There's digital versions of it now.
Yeah.
But there were not color corrector cards for darker skin tones up until like the 80s and 90s was when they started doing that, because they literally did not put enough like people with darker skin on camera to make it worth their time because of racism. Anyway, so it has been an ongoing evolution in the film industry to find ways to shoot darker skin in a way that looks natural to darker skin.
Yeah.
And not just to apply the way that you shoot lighter skin onto a darker skinned person. This was exceptionally important in the movie Get Out because Daniel Kaluuya has darker skin and they wanted to make sure that it looked authentic to him and that his skin tone showed true while still being able to light everyone else and shoot things at night. And so I think this is actually an evolution of Jordan Peele learning how to do it even better because everyone in this movie looks natural and the camera work looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is
does.
really a credit to how much attention he is paying, that he is taking steps to make sure that people look good on camera. That's important.
Yeah.
And it shows, like it made a difference in this movie.
It does.
So Keke Palmer's first scene where she does the speech on set about her great-grandfather, they did 14 takes of it, and every single take was different.
Oh.
She did it 14 different ways.
Wow. Okay, cool.
And then they just chose one, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, cool.
So Jupe, Stephen Wen's character, has a large pair of metal scissors on his desk, and they're the same ones from Us. So he has a pair of Us scissors on his desk.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So I kind of briefly mentioned this, but Fry's Electronics closed all of its locations nationwide on February 24th, 2001, prior to them filming this movie. And they kept the one in Burbank. They kept the building as is so they could shoot this and then recreated the interior. So many people initially theorized that this movie might involve an alien invasion, believing that the title of the movie was an acronym for Not of Planet Earth, which it still very well may be.
Yeah, I mean, that still works because Sky Shark is not from Earth.
Right. Jordan Peele has commented that he wanted to name it after what he thought people's reactions would be to the film, which I think is kind of pretty accurate too.
Yeah, I think he uses the title of the film twice convincingly in ways that I think people would actually say it. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the first horror film to be filmed with an IMAX camera. Now, something unique about IMAX cameras is they actually take film.
Yeah.
If you aren't aware, movies are made a couple different ways, but a lot of them are made digitally today. IMAX is one of the few that's still on film. And then there are certain people who choose to continue to shoot on film. Quentin Tarantino notoriously is one of them. So this is also the first Jordan Peele movie to be shot on film. And it's because it was shot on IMAX.
Yeah.
But previously he's worked digitally. I don't know if he's going to continue to work on film. I think it really did a service to this movie. This movie looks so good.
It does really look great.
It's beautiful. So Emerald and OJ wear green and orange respectively because it is tied to their names. So Emerald wears green, OJ wears orange for orange juice.
Yeah.
So now if you haven't had a chance to go see on Jordan Peele's Twitter the Gordy's Home trailer and title sequence, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of fun foreshadowing in that sequence that doesn't actually make it into the movie that basically foreshadows what happens. So like we see the aftermath. They filmed this completely separate piece that they only used for promo, but it's basically what the opening of the Gordy show would have been. It's pretty fun.
Okay, cool.
So they reference a cowboy film called Buck and the Preacher from 1972 in this movie. Because according to Jordan Peele, it was the first time that he had seen black cowboys represented, because it's a myth that all cowboys were white. That's a very one-sided version of history. And so he very much wanted that to have an influence on the film. So Stephen Wen is great in this, but he almost was not the character of Jupe. Originally, that was offered to Jesse Plemons.
Really?
Which would have been super interesting as well. Like, I have no problem with the way Stephen Wynn did this, but Jesse Plemons would have been pretty amazing. But he actually had to turn it down due to scheduling conflicts. Now, on Angel's Fry's Electronics truck, there's a series of numbers that say FE1111. FE stands for Fry's Electronics, but 1111 is a reference to us and Jeremiah 11:11, which is the scripture that they repeatedly reference in Us. This is the third Jordan Peele film in a row to reference scripture as a plot point, oddly enough.
Yeah, it seems like something he likes to do.
Now, interestingly enough, Jeremiah 11:11 is, I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Although they cry out to me, I will not listen to them. So it also kind of applies to this movie.
It does sort of fit, yeah.
Yeah. So when Jupe is first describing the Gordy attack, he tells them that it lasted 6 minutes and 13 seconds. At the show, he says that he first saw the alien 6 months ago at 6:13 p.m. The implication being that there's some sort of greater purpose happening where everything is happening at the same time for him. But Jordan Peele hasn't discussed this. But that is the case in the movie.
Okay.
So those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. By the way, the cinematographer for this movie, you mentioned his name earlier. It's like Hoyt van Hoytema.
Hoytema?
I probably butchered that, sorry. But he was the cinematographer for Ad Astra, which is the technique was used before in Ad Astra. And his next job, he went from Nope to Oppenheimer. So I sort of can't wait to see how
Oppenheimer,
good that
though.
looks. I know. I bet Oppenheimer is going to look great.
Ad Astra was really pretty, but the movie was ugh.
Yeah, but I mean, the cinematographer doesn't have much to do with the story, but if it's pretty, that's his
it was
job.
very well shot.
Yeah. So I'm a fan of his work. Never heard his name until you mentioned it, but I like what he does. But let's talk some box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Nope? And it came out this year.
I bet this was expensive. I'm going to say this cost $80 million.
Okay. Mikey, what do you think?
I'm going to say 45.
All right. You guys are on either side of it. Paige, I think you're technically closer, though. It's $68 million, which...
That makes sense.
Yeah, I buy that. Especially because they shot all of this on film, and it was IMAX
And on
film.
IMAX film specifically.
Yeah. Okay. So this movie premiered on July 22nd, 2022. It was number 1 the week it came out. Number 2 was Thor, Love and Thunder. Number 3 was Minions, The Rise of Gru. Number 4 was Where the Crawdads Sings. And number 5 was Top Gun Maverick. What do you think Nope made in its opening weekend?
Oh, it made box office records. This movie was blowing shit out of the water. So I'm going to say it makes 80 its first weekend.
Okay.
I'm going to say 50.
Okay. Mikey, you are closer. It made $44.3 million in its opening weekend. Now, it's still in theaters, so this number will change. So when you're listening to this, it'll be more than this. But what do you think it made domestically at the box office as of the time of our recording, which is September 6th?
120.
Okay.
I want to say it was 150 last I checked.
Paige, I bet you're going to be correct when it goes out of theaters, but as of right now, it is exactly $120.7 million. So, Mikey, you were almost exactly right. Internationally, it's made a total of $38.8 million for a total of $159.6 million as of today. Now, again, it's still in theaters. So that number will go up until it's out of theaters. I mean, it's literally only been in the box office for 7 weeks, and it's done very well. The lowest it's gotten in the rankings is 11th.
Dang.
So it's still doing pretty well in the theaters.
Well, I hope he keeps making a lot of films because I really like his voice.
Oh, he will.
So, Mikey, do you want to hit him with that scary scale?
Yeah, scary scale listeners is how scary we found the film today. It's a scale of 1 to 10. Our 1 example is Ghostbusters, and our 10 example is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Paige!
This was a 1 for me today. I would say in the theaters, it was a 2.
Todd?
I saw it in theaters too, so that probably is going to skew my number a little higher than it would have been if I just watched it on my big TV upstairs. But I gave it a 4 because there were parts that scared me. I was covering my eyes, very tense, didn't love it.
I'm gonna give it a 3 because I got really freaked out during the aliens and the barn thing. I was it got real Signs vibes for a second.
Bro, yes, exactly. Until he punches that kid, and then I was just laughing, which is fun.
Signs scared the shit out of me in the theaters, and so did this, all
Same.
that sound design and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this is a million times better than Signs, though.
Yeah.
And that's your scary scare.
Yeah. So this week, you guys made us watch Nope. What are you making us watch next week?
So we have an extra week this month. It is still new release month. So we wanted to pick something that actually came out in 2021, Dashcam. Mikey, you really liked it a lot. This was kind of your pick.
Yeah, I liked it. I like found footage. I liked it that the main character was insufferable, and that made it interesting for me for some reason.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess your homework for next week is to watch a movie where you hate the protagonist and hope she dies in Dashcam. I've not seen it. I have no idea. But yeah. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
No.
Well, while you're looking one up, let me tell them how they can have their review run on the podcast, and that is to leave us a 5-star text review, and we'll have Mikey read it for you. So, Mikey, whose review you going to read this week?
Great question, Todd. Thanks for bringing it up.
Why, thank you.
I'm going to read Ragnar Rocket Ship, which is an interesting... That's pretty funny.
I love that name. So, what does Ragnar Rocket Ship have to say?
They say we were robbed. Mikey, Todd might not care about Maul. Oh, Darth Maul.
Darth Maul. Yeah.
Okay, but I do. You're right, and you should say it. It's bogus he's re-dead. And okay. This guy's agreeing with me, so I'm doubling down on this review.
I like how you hated the review at the beginning, and now you're so on board for it.
I was like, who's Maul? And then I was like, oh, Darth Maul, my buddy. 5 stars.
Well, Ragnar Rocket Ship, thank you so much for that awesome 5-star review. And if you want Mikey to read your 5-star review, leave us a 5-star review. So guys, if you like this show but want to hear this power throuple on another movie review show about romance and romantic comedies, check out Romancing the Pod, where Mikey, Paige, and I break down and make fun of romantic movies. It's a lot of fun, guys. Check it out. If you want to follow us on social, please do. We are at Horror Virgin or online at horrorvirgin.com. If you want to follow us all individually, you can do that as well. Paige is at Paige Wesley on Twitter, or Rampage Wesley everywhere else, including TikTok. Mikey is at mrandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome. If you like the show so much and you want to help financially support it, please do by going to patreon.com/horrorvirgin, where you can get a lot of great levels and a lot of great stuff like bonus episodes, director's cut episodes where they're a little bit longer and you get them actually a day earlier than the regular feed drop. We do a lot of great things like listener requests and stuff like that. So guys, check out the Patreon and help support the show.
If you want to financially support me, but not Todd, just look me up on Venmo.
If you can't financially support the show, that's understandable. That's fine. But if you want to hang out with us on the daily, join the Facebook group at facebook.com/group/horrorvirgin. We also link it like once a week, so just find it there and join the awesome Facebook group. Literally, we're in there talking every day. It's awesome. And guys, we got a P.O. box. So if you want to send us some love letters or whatever you might send to a P.O. box, it's actually not a P.O. box. It's like a regular street address. It's pretty awesome. It's 6688 Nolensville Road, number 108-34, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027. So send us some stuff.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out our Twitch stream, we're at twitch.tv/Todd Awesome, where we will be playing horror video games. So if you have always wondered what it would be like to watch me get scared, you can now do that on Twitch while I play these horror games. It's twitch.tv/Todd Awesome, guys. Check it out. It's a lot of fun for you. Not a lot of fun for me. This episode was brought to you by Tia, and Tia's teenager's been driving her crazy. So how has Tia's teenager been driving her crazy?
She keeps
Shits on the
vomiting
house.
blood all over the house.
Oh, no. Oh, and when you say all over the house, you mean like outside the house.
Yeah, when she vomits around the house, she really vomits around the house. You know what I mean?
Oh, I actually did see in the Facebook group that her teenager was mad at her.
Oh, for getting the wrong Starbucks
Yes,
drink?
I did see that. Yeah. So
Well, next time she gets no Starbucks
exactly.
drink.
That should be your punishment, Tia. Anyway, thank you so much for the support. This episode also brought to you by Jonathan, and Jonathan wants me to make you guys watch some spooky spider videos. So I'm going to do that now. Can you guys see my screen?
Oh, yeah, and I already don't like it. There's bug spray has entered the chat.
Yeah, bug spray in the chat. There. Oh, here we go. But the video is called Immortal Spider. That's the only text Jonathan sent me when he sent me this.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's
no.
Oh my God.
No.
Oh my God.
No.
The spider is chasing the guy who is spraying it with like bug spray.
Oh, and it is unaffected.
You gotta light a match in front of that thing if you're gonna go that
Oh
route.
yeah, you're gonna have to light this thing on fire. No, I can't watch this
That's
again.
huge. That
Yes.
looks like a wolf spider, like a big old wolf spider.
You can claim that spider as a deduction on your taxes. It's that big.
Yeah. It's your roommate now.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for that awesome spooky spider video and for the support. We love you so much. We now return you to another episode of The Patreonicals.
It's dinosaur times.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. They're making a city in dinosaur times. And in the distance, an atomic bomb goes off. And then
Okay.
out of the forest walks Mr. Rage Bomb.
Uh-oh, someone's back.
And he's like, you guys left me in dinosaur times. Fucking pissed me off, man. I've been blowing shit up out here.
All right.
And then he also brings a cave woman with a club, and she doesn't speak a lot of English, but her name's Lauren,
Okay.
Mrs. Rage Bomb.
Oh, wait, they're married?
I mean, not like it's like common law because they were just sharing a cave. He kind of keeps the cave clean, and she like hunts and does all the stuff because she's like lived in that time.
Okay, cool.
So Cody from the pawn shop was like, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm Cody. I heard you were just a person who can blow up in various different explosion levels, and I heard you have a short fuse." And so him and Cody and Bo Easy have become really good friends, and they're building a city. And so those three built a giant pawn shop in a tree, like their whole. It's kind of like Sherwood Forest, but with dinosaurs and shit.
Okay.
The Mun clones have been put to work to help them build all this stuff, and they guard they're like little foot soldiers now. They have like a whole little society. So Libby and Danielle and Aaron, they've done a lot of the building of the city, so most people have kind of put them in charge. Isaac and Karoon go out and hunt brontosauruses to eat because they're not super aggressive and they're very big and they can feed everyone.
Oh, yeah, you could probably eat a brontosaurus for a month. Like, it would take a long time to eat all that sweet, sweet bronto meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Meanwhile, no one knows Wes made the trip back in time.
Back in time.
Time! Hell yeah.
The Mun women have kept him hidden.
For Snoo Snoo?
Yeah, for Snoo Snoo. He keeps birthing all the Mun clones. And he can't he's still in his withered up Voldemort body because all of the babies steal all his nutrients.
Okay.
They do that. And then you bring them Starbucks, and they're like, this isn't the right Starbucks.
Rude. We're talking to you, Tia's daughter.
Scott, who's made the thing, he's learned yoga, and he's doing a lot of yoga in olden times.
That rocks for him. Get it?
That does rock. Shining Donut has made custard traps along they have like a big wooden wall around the tree city, New Dinotopia.
Yeah.
And it's made of a moat of custard.
That is one delicious moat.
It's sticky. There's giant prehistoric ants everywhere.
Oh, that they would do that though. That's gross. Yeah, you're right.
But you know who's swimming in it? Allie the mermaid.
Oh, that is at the same time gross and awesome, I guess. I don't think you could swim through it. It would just be like you like trying not to like die as you swim. Like, okay.
Jennifer with a PH comes out and she announces that her and Shining Donut are now expecting a child.
Oh, wow. Things escalated quickly for them.
There's been a time jump. There's like been like a 4 or 5 month time jump.
Okay. All right, cool.
But it's kind of like Flintstones. Like they're using animals like as machines and stuff sometimes. Like they'll put the beak on the record player and they can play the records.
When it's time to close up the pawn shop, they pull that bird's tail and it like makes the sound. Yeah.
Yeah. Nathan, the professional wrestler, he wrestled a raptor and lost, but he was rescued
Just in time.
just in time for the end of the episode. And then Driscoll comes up to Jeremy with the laser eyes and he's like, why do you look so sad? And he's like, my laser eyes have nothing to burn. What is my purpose in life? And then Dave, being nice, is like, you can burn me. And then so Jeremy kills him with his laser eyes so he feels better. But Jeremy said that was unfulfilling and that he needs to find his purpose in life. And that's the end of the episode.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait till next week to find out if Jeremy finds his purpose in life on another episode of The Patreonicals.
And that's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd.
Keep it oogie spooky.
Yeah.
Have a great week.
Bye, Sky Shark nerds.